Oh, to do a ride-along? So it would go along with our ride, we do have a ride-along policy, you can come do a ride-along. Just, fill out the slip, I'll get it, approve it, schedule a date and time that would work out for you. And, you could go ride with officers and see what they do throughout the shift.
Thank you.
Anything else for the chief? Okay, village administrator?
Good evening, all.
You got everything fixed yet?
So December, we had a little bit of snow events in December, which is kind of unusual. We had a total of one unit plowed out for 63 hours total in December, and then we had a second unit, which is manned by one of our utility people, and that one ran 24 hours. So we had a little bit of unusual weather. So hopefully we will keep that at a minimum. Just one thing of note, and this just happened today, we got an email today from the Ohio EPA notifying us that they're going to release some grant money in 2026 and 2027 for up to $1.5 million across the state for alternatives to keeping the rivers and the lakes clean from excessive chlorides, which means road salt. So if there's any kind of improvements we want to go forth with our brine system or anything else, which we don't have right now, this would be perfect for that. So I'm going to be busy working on the grant application for that, in the hopes that we get maybe at least the first round or second round.
Are those matching grants or they're
This is completely. So that's good news. On the utility side of things, of course, we're working on the well field. Right now, we're going to explore, we had a study that was done by a consultant back in July, and that was to improve and maintain our existing wells, which we pretty confident with all the maintenance and all the improvements that we can do, we can gain enough well field capacity in our existing wells to suffice for the short term.
When you say short term,
Well, as of right now, our plant is rated at 1 million gallons a day. We currently are running about an average of 0.5, which is 500,000 a day. With the improvements, they think they can get up to 3 million gallons a day. So that's not set in stone. Everything is, it's not a science when you get down underground. So, but we do have some high hopes. These are consultants that have been in the business for decades, and they have a good proven track record. And some of our wells do need maintenance no matter what. So just bringing them up to where they were when they were new is going to help tremendously. Any other questions?
oh, I do. I saw an article that I know is going to get a little traction in the area about the, I think they call them forever chemicals, the solids. And when I looked, it said that ours have all been non-detectable. Is that?
On the finished water, yes. On raw water, which was the well water, there's always ongoing testing going on. And it can change as the aquifer changes.
But it's the one that everybody's worried about, it sounds like, are the discharges that are going into the rivers and stuff. And we're good there, right? We're not gonna get lumped in.
No, we don't, our wastewater plant discharges to the river. And so for all intents and purposes, we're all full of PFAS, every one of us and everything. Okay, so we discharge that. Every wastewater plant discharges that all the time. So in order to break that cycle, you would have to have treatment on your wastewater plant, everybody would. And you would have to keep all the PFAS out of the consumer chain. So to say that we don't have any is kind of misleading.
It's just undetectable.
It's just undetectable, but the detectable limit is 0.04 parts per trillion.
Right.
So for all intents and purposes, get rid of all of it. So that's not the last you're going to hear of that. The US EPA has come up with a law, and it's going to trickle down to the Ohio and all the other states, and we're gonna have to deal with it eventually.
I just wanted to be proactive.
Yes,
And
we
bring
are.
that up and
that's
let's make
something-
26 the year that we don't react.
Right,
We're
and that's something that we're always on the lookout for, is making sure that we're on top of things way down the road.
proactive.
So, any other questions? Okay, thank you.
Okay, village engineers report?
Hello, welcome new members. My name is Susan Derwachter. I look forward to working with all of you. Feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions, or you can always let the mayor or the administrator or Wendy know, and they can get in touch with me as well. Just a few updates. So the Foxfire residential subdivision, currently they're working on the section 4, phases 1 and 2. Those are under construction. They've recently reached out. They're ready to move forward with phase 3 of section 4. So then that's the final piece, the final part of that phase. So once we receive their performance bond and their inspection retainer, we'll set up a pre-construction meeting and you'll see some movement, probably I would say in a month or two. Belshazzar Street. So we have a project in design. It's basically Front Street to Assyrian. So that section of Belshazzar. We're looking to install brand new storm sewer, all new pavement, new curb and gutter, new sidewalks. So we're wrapping up those plans now, and we plan to submit them to the village for their review next week. So that'll be moving forward. Ideally, we want to build that project 2026. So summer would be best when schools are out of session. And we also have the Chestnut Commons drainage study. So it was brought to the village's attention that there's some issues with that subdivision with runoff from a neighboring property. So we're analyzing the existing storm sewer, coming up with some recommendations. I'd say within a week or two, we'll have those recommendations ready, present those to the village, and then also to the adjacent property owner and to the HOA board to get their input. That's all I have, unless anyone has questions or comments for me.
What's the tentative cost associated with Belshazzar?
The last estimate we did, it was 700,000.
Had we budgeted 750? So we were getting close.
Good question.
Questions?
I
Thank you.
I have a question that might be for you, but, Bill, so that we don't have any confusion, about what our roads are. How do we go about, having our engineer designate collector, local, and that, so it's not in question next time? Is that something we do, we ask her to do, so that our roads are designated and we're not calling it a local when it connects or collects and we stay above board with everything?
No doubt.
Yeah, I would
I
say,
think it's
so
an
for
ODOT
for example,
nomenclature.
state routes would not be technically local roads, you know, they're most likely arterials, maybe collectors, but they would be of a higher classification. You want definitely 12-foot lanes, you want wider shoulders if it's not curb and gutter. I always default to ODOT and their classifications. But if there's a road in particular, we could certainly
Well,
talk about
as we
that.
start to develop, like Welch and that stuff, I think we need to know, because it was called a local road and allowed zoning per se, and I know your feeling, and my feeling is that's not a local road. I just wanna get it in writing somewhere, so that down the road, we don't have another, that administration decides it's a collector, and it's actually in Walker Point.
Yeah, that's a good point, and we may want to coordinate that with the county as well, especially like with Welch, because a portion of that's actually county, a portion of it's village, so we should be coordinating and talking amongst the different jurisdictions to make sure we all agree. So we don't have drive, that we've got things spaced accordingly.
And I think the reason, and because as we grow, the right of ways and stuff might not be, like on Welch Road, I think a collector is supposed to be 65 feet or whatever, and it's not. Could it still be called a collector, or whatever? I think you said it was a collector. I can't remember which one. Could it still be called that if it doesn't have the 50, 75, whatever feet?
Correct, yes, it can be, and the intent though is as you develop, you secure that additional right of way for that roadway. So if you ever needed a center turn lane or a left turn lane, you've got the space, you're not having to acquire the right of way after the fact. So yes, it can still be that higher classification even with a narrower, you know, as things develop and roadway classifications change,
Right.
yeah, that could still be the case.
So is that something that needs to be an ordinance bill, or is that?
No, it's ODOT dependent. ODOT classifies roads.
Yeah, between ODOT and I'd say the county, we can all come to an agreement, yeah.
So is that something that the mayor has to work with you to maybe start on, or do we need to vote and decide if we want that done?
Which ODOT would already have mapping in place, that does exist, that's where I went for Welch,
Right.
was to their mapping.
Right, that's where I went as well.
Yeah. So it exists, maybe it's a matter of us just looking at it.
And it-
Yeah, I mean, if you wanted to change the classification, Eric, then you would have to adopt legislation to change any classification similar to the alley we just did last
Yeah.
year. But the classifications are done by ODOT, prescribed by ODOT.
Okay, wait a minute. So if they're done by ODOT, and ODOT has that as not a local road, and we said it's a local road, that's a problem.
As long as we have legislation declaring it to be a local road, we're fine.
Okay. Nothing else, thank you.
Thanks, Eric. Thank you all.
Thank you. Zoning administrator's report.
Few things. Yeah, it's total year-to-date last year, but that.
Yeah.
Good boy. I'm over there. Last year, year-to-date, 116 homes were built and 178 accessory structures were done. But since we're going into 2026 with some new people and some new older people, I think I have some things down here I guess I want to go over with you. If you need help with anything, please don't hesitate to call out our crew within here. The mayor, Wendy, myself, Paula, the administrator. We all are here to know what's going on, so we can help you with that. The other thing is, as you go through the mapping structures, looking at some of the maps, you're going to get plot plans, for better words or not. That's not doodling on there, okay? The little insignias on there all signify something. So if you don't understand that, just give us a call. We'll explain it to you. It's easy to do. Other than that, if you have any other questions, I'll be glad to help. Good, everybody quiet now. Quiet.
How are we doing with Bob?
Huh?
Is Bob's thing gonna be done?
I have no, what are we doing with Bob?
Bob transferred his case down to
Several of them.
municipal court. His initial appearances, February maybe?
Okay.
Good old Bob. That's a long story to present, so, okay. Any other questions?
Jim.
Good, thank you.
Fiscal officer's report. Any questions for Wendy? I'm gonna circle back to the mayor's report. I want to let everybody know the new council person class is on Saturday, February 21st, and it starts at 8:30. It's located at the Ohio Event Center and Lewis Center. This is a class you're not required to take, but I think you all should take it. You get a lot of information there. You'll better help understand. Now, if you're interested in doing that, let Wendy know so she can get you registered, pay for it, all of that stuff. When do you want to know by?
When is the class?
February 21st,
I can know like by the 20th of January, that's fine.
20th of January.
can't make that class, there are 2 other locations, they're just not in.
Yeah, there's one in Cincinnati and another one, but yeah. So if you can't make that date, get with us and we'll give you the other dates. There is a mayor's class on March 20th in OBED that I would like to attend. Also, you are all required to take fraud training, and you'll have to complete a public records online class one time during your term. Those are online, so you also get with Wendy. She can help you out with that. And I feel that since we're in this process of trying to get a land use plan together, I feel that we should slow down on any new development until that is completed, so we know where we want to place things. We do have properties that are already annexed, so if council chooses to go forward with those, I think most of those are residential. Then, we've already started on that process. I have contacted ODOT, I know that was a question at the last meeting, I'm just waiting to hear back from them on regard Welch and 762. Lastly, I want to say that the Christmas event went great. I had someone tell me at the tree lighting that it felt like a Hallmark movie, and that's what I was going for, so it was great. Also, I wanted to give a big thank you to Paula for sending those special letters out to everyone. This year we did 130 letters. She did this all on her own time, so I appreciate this, having this tradition continue. I want to thank, of course, again, Paula and Wendy for volunteering and helping at the event, make things go smoothly. It was great having them there. Thank you to Jim for letting us use his patio heaters and so we could keep Santa and Mrs. Claus nice and warm. I want to thank our street superintendent, Mike Struckman, for all of his time he spends decorating the village. You'll see him start taking all of that down
This week.
this week. He's already started. So he also volunteers his time to come and drive the hayride for everybody. So I really appreciate his time. That's a huge thing for our event. I love it. Lastly, I want to thank the Commercial Point Men's Club for allowing us to borrow their Santa chair. It takes a village to put things like this together, and I appreciate everybody stepping in when needed and helping out. So that's my report. Okay, we'll move on to legislative reports. Ezekiel?
Nothing.
Patricia?
Nothing.
Courtney?
Nothing.
Eric?
Yeah, as we enter 2026, there's going to be a lot of changes with state laws and funding. And I just want all of us to take a deep breath before we make up our mind on whether we're for or against that stuff, because we just need to remember that if we don't like the state law, we can have a local law to deal with it. But we don't need to write legislation that's the same as a state code or anything, because as a statutory village, if we don't have it, we fall back to the state statutes. I know that a lot of committees have been discussed. I just want to make sure everybody is aware that we don't have to do all the committees tonight. We can add them and remove them anytime, as many times as we want. So I just don't want to see us get bogged down, on that with an agenda that looks like this right off the bat. And, when it's not me against anybody, you against anybody, we're all, one group. And if anybody's not willing to work with people, then maybe this isn't the place for you. But that's all I ask is if this year, if you have any questions or if you want to know how I feel, I will not hide it. I will not tell anybody but you. So I just invite, as we go through this, to have open communications. And we have processes, and let's let them work. Let's not try to reinvent the wheel. And the last thing that I have a question about, I know that we had a public records request for an opinion by our solicitor, and the mayor was told that that is privileged. So I did some checking. As a legislative body, we can vote to waive that and release that. if we want, but it has to be a majority of the legislative body. The mayor cannot make that decision by statute on her own. So if that is something the council would like to do, that's something maybe we can take care of, in, additional business, if that's, something everybody would like to release, in regards to standing on, I think it was a open position and how many votes to waive readings. So I just wanted to get that out there so everybody can think about it during the meeting. And if that's something we wanna do, you just need a motion, a second, and a vote for us. That's not something Nancy can do on her own. That's all I have.
Okay, Dustin?
Thanks for bringing that up, Eric. I do, with regard to Council Rule 8.01, the motions, I have provided the entire panel with written motions that will be requested under business items portion of the agenda. So, and you did mention the committees. One would just be a continuance of a current committee that we had in 2025, and the other would be a new one, but we'll discuss that in business. So if you are in support of this if you're in support of open discussion, debate, dialogue, with opportunities for public engagement, then this will be an easy yes when that topic comes up. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Jay?
No.
Okay, public comments. Up first, we have Jason West. Come, see your name and address. You'll have 5 minutes to speak.
I don't think we have Jason by now.
Jason West, 178 Rosewood Loop, Commercial Point, Ohio. I wanted to say good evening. I want to take a moment tonight to congratulate the newly elected council and thank each and every one of you for stepping forward for our community. It takes a lot to do that. While elections can be hard fought, the work ahead is what matters most with our community. I wish council success as it moves our town forward. I'm excited for our future and to see our community thrive, as well as I know all of you probably are. As you begin this work, I hope you will be bold. You will ask the tough questions and feel comfortable engaging in thoughtful discussion with each other. It's healthy to explore and have different perspectives. Seek out your resources that you need for your legislation. If you don't have enough time to get your resources that you need, just vote no. Put it back on the agenda next time. Approach issues with curiosity. Ask the questions. I can't say this enough. Asking the question shows you care for what you're looking at to pass for anything when it comes to Commercial Point. So that's all I had to say. Welcome. Thank you so much. Good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jay.
Okay, Tim Donaldson?
My name's Tim Donaldson. I live at 146 Walnut Creek Drive, Marshall Point. And I'm asking for a variance to do addition to help me get into the house, to help to my bedroom's upstairs. Live in a 2-story, so I want to add a bedroom downstairs and more space so I can get in and out. It'll help me greatly. And I'm not new to this community. Been here pretty much my whole life. I'm not going nowhere, so I'd rather stay where I'm at. And just what I need to make it safer for myself. I want to thank you all for listening. I would like for you to please consider this tonight. maybe take a vote. If you could. Thank you.
Thank you. Brandon, was yours for your presentation? No, okay, I wanted to make sure. Okay, Brandon, no?
Thank you very much. Brandon Hill, 161 Cottonwood Place. Speaking solely as a resident at this moment, did not plan to make a public comment today, but when I saw Timmy roll in, for those of you that don't know, I had to ask Timmy his last name tonight because I know him as Uncle Timmy Joe. My father and Tim have been best friends the majority of their lives, therefore I grew up with Timmy, and I love the man with all my heart. As someone who has driven Timmy to Commercial Point events, driven him to go get food, taken him home, I know how to park the van so that we can barely squeeze him out, so that we can get him up to the ramp, so that then I can accidentally run his wheelchair directly into the drywall and make another hole.
That's my house all the time.
I know that we all know that there's a process that has to be considered, and that there are different schools of thought about what is allowable or the precedent that gets set, things of that nature. I think we all understand that. What I would ask is that as council works through how they're going to approach the request that Timmy is making, please do so with open eyes with regards to what is being asked and why. Tim has passed his days of wanting to park a race car in the garage. He's not seeking to put in a pool room so that he can, play with his buddies. Tim needs a quality of life assistance, and he's a valued member of this community, and I think that what is being asked is strictly in place so that he can continue to live in this place. He loves this community, and like he said, he's not going to leave while breathing. I think we all know that. I want to see him made as comfortable as possible in his day-to-day life. Everyone deserves that, and my only request is that as this is being considered, as it's being talked, if there are questions, if there are concerns, if everyone could just be willing to pull a seat up to the table and have open discussion, because Timmy needs this. He needs it badly in order to continue to have the quality of life that he deserves day in, day out. And so that's my only request, is just to make a plea to everyone to really be considerate when it comes to this ask, because I don't know many more deserving people, because he's got a great heart, and he loves this community, and he loves everything that it stands for. So, appreciate it, guys.
Thank you. Okay, John Belcher?
John Belcher, 1751 Higher Road. Said that what he's just saying, Tim's, it's more feasible for Tim to grow up to add on to his home than to go out and buy another one if he can afford to, upgrade and put another ranch style house. This is just works better for him to get a better quality of life. So he's not trying to build a garage for his car, just trying to make his life a little better and make it work. Tim's been here all his life, and like you said, he loves the place and loves the community. Would like to stay here. So please consider that, and maybe if you can make a decision tonight, that would be awesome. But you can just consider what he's trying to do it's all for good cause.
Thank you. Kevin Elliott?
And one was signed for the resolution for Rickenbacker.
Oh, you're here as the developer? Okay. Okay. Alright, that is. So we're gonna go to business items, because we're going to move the president pro temp up. So I just need a motion for president pro temp nomination.
I motion to nominate Dustin Fox for president, council president.
I'll second that.
Second by Jay. Roll call.
Eric,
No.
Ezekiel,
Yes.
Patricia,
Yes.
Jay,
Yes.
Courtney,
Yes.
Dustin.
Abstain.
Okay, congratulations, Dustin.
Thank you.
Now we're gonna move on to our first presenter, which is Crossroads. We have some.
I'll just take a second to finish
Sure.
what happened. Good evening, everybody.
While Molly's setting up, I want to introduce myself. I'm Jim McFarland with zoningresources.com. I'm one of the individuals assisting Crossroads with this proposal. And will be involved with this as well as if the council chooses Crossroads to facilitate that. I was blessed to be part of the Code Enforcement Department of Scioto Township for 5 years, from 2010 to 2015. And in that, I learned a couple things. One is that when people come into the office, they hated me. And I didn't know them, but they sure didn't like me. And it didn't take me long for Troy Smith to explain how things go. And working with Terry Burrow, Mike Struckman, and some of the other guys there, I learned what zoning is, its value. And I also learned that I had a passion for it. And I began a company called zoningresources.com because of that. And this year I celebrate my 10th year running a successful business in 14 states with 23 contractors. And I'm just excited to death to be able to introduce Holly and Molly. And one of the things I wanted just to kind of share up front, that I'm very passionate about zoning, exceptionally so. I presented for Ohio Township Association, Ohio Code Enforcement Officials Association. There's just a lot of things we've been able to do, and I just think it's a phenomenal opportunity to see what's happened when I was being courted by architects when the field was still a farm and Lehman Farms was just farm, and to see what's happening now, and to wonder if it would have been like if there would have been a comprehensive plan both for the township and for the commercial point back then. How would things be different? And that's one of the neat exercises that Crossroads does, is help us reflect on, the past, because all of us have a story. A lot of us can, we all experience our stories as individuals, as citizens in the township and in the commercial point. A lot of us can have, it's a little bit tougher to be able to interpret that story. The things that have happened in the past, we can look for people to blame, people to be heroes, groups and organizations. But one of the toughest things to do in all this process, but the most critical, I think, in order for vision to become real, is to be able to articulate that story. And I think that that's one of the things that Crossroads does the best, is it helps not just the community, but the individuals, the souls that live within individual communities, whether it's a township governance, whether it's a village, whether it's a city. I've worked with Holly before in other projects we've collaborated on, and I think that they're an outstanding, well-run organization with high character. I've seen organic growth happen, and it's just been really neat. And I'm going to introduce Molly, who's a couple years younger than I, who's very sharp. And I just want to encourage you to consider her presentation. And whether you choose us, the MSG, Ryan and other folks, it's chocolate and vanilla and strawberry. It's all ice cream. But I cannot say enough the importance of having a comprehensive plan. To me, it's the right Bower and Euchre. I mean, if you got a comprehensive plan, you just give yourself a right Bower, and your left Bower is your zoning code, and it can support that. So if you don't have a right Bower in your Euchre hand, then you're missing out on a winning strategy. So whether you go with Crossroads, MSG, or Envision, make a decision to do comprehensive planning. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Jim, for that lovely introduction. I just want to second what he's saying about comprehensive planning as well. We heard this from one of the council members earlier about 2026 being a year of proactivity versus reactivity, and the search to enlist a consultant to help with a comprehensive plan, I think, is very emblematic of that. But again, I'm Molly Ridge. I'm a senior planner with Crossroads Community Planning, and we'll be working with Jim, of course, through this process if selected. So this presentation, I'm just going to go through really quickly to give you an introduction to who we are, our work, and what prepares us to help Commercial Point with a comprehensive plan. So to start off, Holly isn't here today. When our company was smaller, we used to call ourselves the Holly and Molly Show, but that is no more. Holly couldn't be here regrettably, but she is an expert in zoning and planning throughout the state. Most of her experience comes from Fairfield County Regional Planning Commission. She was there for about 25 years, and she was the director for about 20 of those. And so she has extensive experience in urban, rural, suburban, exurban, and small town planning. And that is actually why she started this company, was to help bridge that gap for communities that are facing that growth pressure and helping them plan proactively to be the best communities that they can possibly be. Again, I'm Molly, I'm a senior planner. A lot of my work revolves around creating user-friendly graphics, maps, like your future land use map that is the pinpoint of a comprehensive land use plan. And I also do a lot of community engagement work, so that ranges from surveys to pop-up events, open houses, traditional meetings such as this, and more. Just a couple things about me, I guess, as well. I'm very passionate about preservation. I'm very much anti-sprawl, and I am very experienced in comprehensive planning development for these types of communities specifically that are facing a lot of growth pressure. And I have experience working with both townships and villages, and sometimes even together. Really quickly, a couple other members of our team. Ben Harder, he has a law degree, and so he has a great legal background. He's very experienced in implementing comprehensive planning recommendations through zoning. Kelsey Miller is also a great member of our team. She has an economic development background, and so she's a great asset when we're talking about how are we going to balance preservation of our small town character in our rural areas with needed growth to balance our tax base. We also have Andrew. He kind of serves as a quality check for us. He's an associate planner and a very valuable member of our team in making sure all of our documents are well formed. And then we have Jim again. Jim, I don't know if you want to say anything else, but yeah, so Jim will be helping us out, again, with zoning resources, and we're very excited to team up for this process. These are our core values as a company. I just wanted to put these up here so you can get to know us a little bit better. I won't go through them all, but just a couple that I wanted to touch on are civic engagement and education is a huge piece of what we do. I think it's maybe what makes us stand out the most as a company. It's very, very valuable to us. You can create a plan with any company, yourselves, with anything, but unless you have active civic engagement and active understanding of your plan, it's probably just going to sit on a shelf. And that's something that we have lots of experience with as planners, is making those plans that are actually used and actually implemented. Make it personal. That's one of my favorite goals, and hold a curious mindset. One of our public commenters today was talking about curiosity. We're always asking questions and trying to understand the community. It's really not our place as a consultant to come in and tell you what you should do, but rather guide you through the process to help understand what are the goals, what are the challenges, and what are your aspirations as a community. This is just some of our clients. You'll note we have a wide range of clients ranging from very rural townships to cities. And again, our specialty is in that area where communities are just facing new growth and are trying to plan proactively. Our team is comprised of people with knowledge of the village of Commercial Point, like Jim, and then people who are experiencing it for the first time. So with our team, you're getting a diverse set of perspectives and a diverse set of eyes. Just a little bit about our method for planning. So we always start with evaluation, and that culminates in what we call an evolving conditions report. We talk to a variety of stakeholders. We'll talk to council members individually, the fire department, the police department, and everyone in between to gain an understanding of the community and really paint the picture of what are the needs, what's missing, and what are we aspiring to. Again, community engagement is a huge part of our planning process, and so our engagement plan will be tailored to your community and designed with a steering committee. A steering committee is the guiding body of any comprehensive planning process. Ours are usually around 10 members, and they make up community members like yourselves, members of council, representatives from other services in the village, and more, business owners, etc., so we can get that diverse set of perspectives and really create a plan that works for everybody. Drafting. I will work on drafting goals, recommendations with the steering committee, as well as developing a future land use map, and then we will work with the village throughout the process, through the adoption process, through council, and make revisions to our work as needed and requested. So in Commercial Point, I want to talk a little bit about the challenges and threats that we see as an outside perspective, and maybe that you've noticed as well. This is not a comprehensive list, and maybe it's not entirely accurate in some people's perspective, but is some things that we've noticed. So the community is facing explosive growth pressure. Balancing economic development and quality of life is another challenge that not just your community faces, but many, many communities in Central Ohio in the past few years. Infrastructure capacity is another challenge. Think of things like fire department, schools, roads. How are we planning for those? And how is growth accommodating those or not accommodating those? Threats that come from this are pressure on the school district, infrastructure and services strain, potential loss of small town character and environmental impacts, and others. But it's important to note that your challenges are also your opportunities during planning. And so all of these facets can be addressed through this planning process, these and more. So responsibly managing your growth, building transparency and community engagement, matching growth to your infrastructure and vice versa, like I mentioned, protecting those small town aspects, again, balancing economic development with preservation, and developing with sustainability in mind, not just environmental sustainability, but fiscal sustainability as well. Next, I'd just like to briefly touch on our work that we've done in other communities. Currently, we are engaged with Scioto Township, the surrounding township to the village, to work with them on a comprehensive plan as well. We have not really started this process yet, so it's fresh and new. This is beneficial to the village for numerous reasons that you can see here. So increasing collaboration, relationship building, and understanding for any future projects or infrastructure is key from this. More effective regional planning comes from this. You have a shared future not only with each other, but with the township, and so working together is a really great way to ensure the future that you want to see, not just in your village, but in the surrounding areas. There's potential to share resources and funding, having cross-jurisdictional agreements. You likely share many values and priorities with the township residents as well. School district-led planning is another thing that could come from this. But it's not all, golden. There are some challenges that can come from multi-jurisdictional planning. History of working in silos, old habits die hard, and so starting that cross collaboration can be challenging. There's potential for competing interests between the village and the township, and it can be more time consuming and complex. But ultimately, we believe that this is a key opportunity to approach preserving community identity and strengthening the distinctive character of both the village and the township through this planning process. We have extensive experience working in multi-jurisdictional planning processes. These are just a couple of plans that are active now. So right now we're working with the Village of Granville and the township on a comprehensive plan, and they are sharing goals around open space, recreation, school district, growth management, and more. The Village of Williamsport and Deer Creek Township is another community we worked in with a village and a township to do a comprehensive planning process, as well as the Village of Berkey and Richfield Township. Even Berkey Township and the City of Dublin and Plain City we've worked with to help them define the future of the 161 corridor and see how we can make it work for all parties involved. These are just some other examples that were in our proposal, so I won't go too deep into them, but we worked with Trenton Township in Delaware County on a comprehensive plan and then a subsequent zoning code. They were facing lots of growth pressure from their surrounding municipalities, and so we worked with them to preserve agricultural zoning in almost all of the township, except key areas where there were key transportation corridors and along important boundaries. And so we're very experienced in preserving that small town character while still allowing some level of economic development and some level of growth to support the essential services that we all need and use. We've also worked with Licking Township and Troy Township, both on comprehensive plans, and now are participating in zoning updates for each of these as well. So we're not only experienced in this planning process, we're experienced in the implementation of it as well. One thing I'd like to note for Troy Township in particular is that similar to Trenton Township, we preserved most of the township as agricultural, had some specific growth areas with the JED, But then we also really tied in those small town aspects. So this is just a little picture here of a restoration idea that we have for a redevelopment, trying to bolster their downtown and revitalize it with the traditional small town look and architectural feel that once existed in the area. That is just a brief overview of us as a company and the work that we've done. So I thank you for your time, and I'm happy to answer any questions you have.
You aware that we did a comprehensive project with the township in the past, and we adopted it and they didn't, and we invited them to be a part of this one, and they said we're not interested.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it's in our best interest to use somebody doing both. I mean, if they don't have like things and they didn't follow through last time, can you sell me as to why we would want to use somebody that's involved with them?
Sure. Yeah. Again, you know, one of the challenges that I mentioned is that history of working in silos, and I think, especially from a township perspective, there can be a bit of distrust of municipalities because townships have less power, and municipalities sometimes have, you know, they have more power, and sometimes annexation can be an issue. However, the township did engage in a comprehensive planning process with us. Again, it's not started, but when we told them that we wanted to also try to work with the Village of Commercial Point, they were very adamant that we go for it and are supportive of this process. And so I think that this might be an opportunity to turn a new leaf in this area and work together. Jim?
Yeah, Eric, I appreciate that comment because I was part of that angst, and I've experienced the angst. I totally understand that and empathize with that, and I think that's one of the blessings of having a. She's mentioned turning the leaf. You know, you all are new here. We have Zoning Resources has contracts with several other smaller villages and jurisdictions, and I understand the dynamic of the. There's just some angst that comes with being in this service, and you guys are, you know, it's a thankless role that you play, but it's critical. It's a different township group than it was when I was there, and I feel that. We've moved back to the township from South Bloomfield. We did the zoning with South Bloomfield as well as some other places. So I think that it's a great question, and it's one I even told them. I said this is not going to be a sure thing because there may be some negative pushback because there's some history. So, but I definitely think that it's a perfect timing to do a lockstep thing together, and I believe that the township, as she mentioned, that the trustees are supportive of this jurisdiction engaging.
Anything else?
What would the proposed timeframe be that you would be kind of operating on initially?
About a year is what we usually operate under. Usually the plan development would take about 10 months, but then the adoption process takes a couple of months, so usually within that year timeframe.
In your packet, you say you would deliver a robust, comprehensive plan within 7 months.
Oh, then we'll do it in 7 months, sorry. Misspoke.
Any other questions? Thank
Great,
you.
thank you all.
I want to go ahead and make a motion to approve the Donaldson variance.
She wants to make a motion to move the Donaldson variance up now, so they don't have to sit through all of the presentations.
Second that.
Second. Roll call.
Patricia?
Yes.
Eric?
Yes.
Ezekiel?
Yes.
Courtney?
Yes.
I'm sorry?
Yes.
Jay?
I get a question. Is there anybody else speaking on this at all? Is there, I mean, there's, do what?
We got two more people
more.
speaking on.
No, on the variance.
On this variance.
I'm sorry.
No.
Okay,
Yeah.
then I'm for it, yes.
Justin?
Yes.
I'd like to do a motion to approve the Donaldson variance.
Second by Eric. Roll call.
Justin?
Yes.
Patricia?
Yes.
Yes.
Ezekiel? Eric?
Yes.
Jay?
Yes.
Courtney?
Yes.
Okay, motion approved. Thank you. That, we're gonna move on to MSG. Oh, he's already over.
Getting her hooked back up and turned back on.
just a moment.
I was messing with it, yeah, I put some bad mojo on it. I'm
No,
sorry
you
about
did,
that.
I saw you looking at it. Had her already rolling.
Yeah.
She's firing up. I don't know what happened while it was sitting there, but it decided it didn't want to function anymore.
That usually works.
Why I had
For
it
the
set up-
expectations.
why I had it set up early, so somebody had to go and use my HDMI cord, but I was taking the 15-minute penalty.
That's true.
No, man. You got the spinning circle right now.
No, it was, it was, what is it? Instead of showing your addition.
Okay.
So that everybody can experience the pain where we're at. Hopefully it comes off pretty quick. There we go. Thanks for bearing with me. I had the computer set up, but apparently it got too hot as well and wanted to take a nap, so.
We're used to amateurs, Brandon, don't worry.
That's me, brother. Still got 47% battery life, we're ready to roll. All right. Whew. It's getting a little bit warm in here, so I'll try not to use too much hot air. Brandon Hill, I'm with the Manic Smith Group. We've been having this discussion about the importance of land use planning and the future of the village for quite some time. I think when I first moved back here to a few minutes down the road from my family farm where I grew up, I almost immediately started talking to Eric and others about what the village was going to do in the future, what it looked like, and what I'd been up to in the last decade since I left the community. And so it's a real honor to be up here tonight, just speaking with you all about this and talking about what it is that I think my team and I could bring to the table for this community. The last time I got up here and spoke, I think I expressed that I just wanted to make sure that y'all had the best toolbox available to start fixing these problems. And that's really what this is all about tonight. So this is my quick agenda. I'm going to talk through the project team, give you a little bit of information about our experience, the community understanding, why planning is so important, and then kind of open it up to discussion as you guys would like. So first of all, who am I? Well, I'm a third generation Commercial Point resident. My grandparents both made their home here. My parents still do. My siblings and I all still live here. Actually, before this meeting, I finished up in my basement office that's right down the road in Chestnut Estates. I spent a decade working in resilient infrastructure, in environmental engineering, community management down in Texas, where I went to school. And then as soon as the kids got old enough to say, how come we don't get to hang out with Grandma and Grandpa more, we packed everything up and came back home. And that's what brought us here today. For this presentation, for this opportunity, we're partnering with a longtime partner of the Manic Smith Group, Reveille.
Reveille was established in 1998. They specialize in small community growing comprehensive planning. This is right up their alley. They have a wonderful focus in economic development, in balancing the community's needs. They're a certified veteran-owned business. The Manick Smith Group, which some of you were here for the last presentation about MSG, but this is actually our 70th year in business, so we've been around a long time, and we do a little bit of everything. Engineering, consulting for the planning side of things, surveying, drones, design, funding, Ohio EPA funding grants especially, if anybody needs help writing those, maybe throwing that out there. So you really get a one-stop shop with our team and a really dedicated group of folks. Like I said, I'm not going to list everything here, but you can see this team is well known in Ohio and the Midwest. We're the Plain City city engineer or village engineer. We've done big comprehensive plans for all sorts of communities of this size and larger. Most recently, me and my team, what I am in expertise in, we did a resiliency master plan for a small neighborhood up in Toledo. So the neighborhood is about the size of this village, and we did an entire plan solely focused on creating 10 actionable projects that layered additional value onto traditional projects. So if you're going to do a parking lot reconstruction for a local community parking lot, well, if we're going to tear up all that pavement, we might as well put in a rain vault down below so that it can handle the stormwater from the neighboring property. We can put in a rain garden around the edges. We can put in municipal energy electric lines around the outskirts so that when you have a food court set up there, a food truck court, nobody has to have those generators the whole event. Things that are practical, and once you hear them, you go, oh yeah, that makes sense. But oftentimes don't get layered into the traditional process because we get on a one-track mind. That's what's exciting to me about what it is that we do, is we're going to come up with creative solutions to the problems that you didn't even know you had, and we're going to help you find funding to generate those solutions in real life. So a little bit about the team experience. You can see some of the work here that Reveille generates. Beautiful visions, beautiful community-driven graphics that then create the ability to go out and reimagine the community that you're in. As someone who has grown up here, I've seen the changes in the village. I've seen how things have evolved over time. I've seen how the needs have evolved over time. And that's something that our team takes very seriously. When we think about this community, we've got really great accessibility to the major corridors. That's going to continue to drive growth here in Commercial Point. We're going to continue to have Columbus growth come down this direction. There is obviously, I don't know if you guys had known about this, but there's a lot of ongoing engagement regarding the balance between residents, commercial, and the community's needs. You may not have picked up on that if you're not on Facebook or otherwise, but there's a lot of activated individuals right now, and that's exciting to me as someone that has kids in the school and lives down the street. I don't mind the attention and the intent behind these groups because it shows that people care about where they live, and that's the sort of energy and excitement that you really need to be able to really drive these sorts of engines. As a big nature nerd, there's a potential to accentuate some of our rural nature through intentional connectivity and park space. I'm a big believer in the value of green spaces and connectivity. I think it's something that we, as our beautiful little patchwork village, haven't had the opportunity to fully realize. But I think it's something that can be captured as part of this process, and there are some actionable steps that can be taken to bring it to fruition. We've got a beautiful, Mayor Nancy was just talking about it a little while ago, where we have these really cool Christmas events, or when we've got, these festivals or the farmers market. I have seen so much more life come to our village through this burgeoning little core attention that we're starting to pay to our downtown. I would love to continue to see us as a village to intentionally invest in that, because I think that is, it is the representation of remaining connected as a community. You see people standing around bounce houses, letting their kids jump around like wild hooligans, and that is where we continue to connect and see each other as humans. And that's the sort of facilitation that I want to see happen through this planning effort. And we've all seen that we have a lot of parts of our community that aren't connected by anything else but roadways. I would love to see some more intentionality put behind our connectivity. So why do you plan? Well, you've got to establish the guidelines. If the community doesn't put together the expectations for growth in their area, then we're letting somebody else set that agenda. And I think that we've seen how that has played out over time. And as we continue to look over the horizon, we're not going to see that line of people waiting to come to this area get any smaller. I think we're going to continue to attract folks who see the value in this community. And now's the time for us to jump on board, making sure that we've got a hand on that steering wheel. This planning allows you to prioritize how things are developed and where they're developed. It allows you to improve synergy across locations. It makes sure that the residents are listened to and provided the necessities that they find important. It really allows us to invest in quality of life amenities, and it supports commercial and economic development that complements Commercial Point's uniqueness and what it is that makes this community so special. So what's the process? Well, you've got the first phase where you have existing conditions and trends. What's going on here? What's it looking like in the future? Plan development, where you're actually generating the document that becomes the living, breathing thing that's setting the pace for the community moving forward. The planning, strategies, and implementation phase, where this plan is taken around to the community and really vetted and figured out and touched base with those who are actually going to be affected by it. And then the plan adoption phase, where we help to facilitate the implementation of this plan. And throughout all of that, there's community outreach. That's something that was previously, when we were up here before the elections discussing, there was kind of a feel that, we've got a land use committee, we've had a lot of talks with the community, I don't know how much we need to invest in community outreach, was what we were told at the time. I think now we all agree community outreach needs to be the cornerstone of this effort, and we are very good at strategically driving the most value out of that for as affordable as possible. So these next slides are just some examples of the sort of quality of plan that you're going to be generating. So this comes from other plans that we've generated together as Manic Smith and Reveille. You can see that we've broken down for this community their highest priority activities, land use for residents. We were able to get 837 residents to respond in a very small community, which is a really great response, frankly. One thing that makes us unique is we actually engage with the students. So in this instance for Commercial Point, it would primarily be focused on the middle school, but we would actually engage with the middle schoolers and their families specifically to talk about what is it that you love about this community, what is it that your family loves. We aren't just interested in hearing from folks who are able to get out and have their voice heard. We're interested in making sure that we really get a representative slice of this community, both from school-age children to folks who aren't able to get out of their house and be participatory in things like this. We will go knock on doors. We will go meet the community where they're at. We will engage with folks in a way that allows as many people as possible to have their voices heard. We will engage with the community, sorting through how things are implemented and figuring out if they can't be implemented, why, and is that something that we can address. As I mentioned, we have an entire team of people that do nothing but apply for grants. So as we pursue this planning process, we can discuss what grants fit the community best and pursue those at a very cost-effective approach, thanks to the fact that we do it all under one team. The planning process. So I went through a lot of this. I'll just touch on a couple. We are going to help you fully understand each of these components. Not just the existing things that are on paper, but the drama that is driving people's lives. Not just community services and facilities, but the housing that those people need to live in. The full infrastructure of the public areas. The transportation and connectivity. One of my favorites. You guys have already taken the step, as was mentioned earlier tonight, to start doing some comprehensive planning. You have that historic land use map. You did some land use discussion with the updated map. What's really missing is taking those areas that were generated and really providing the definition so that we can have planning areas. And what do I mean by that? So lower right-hand corner is what you currently have. That's your map. The example on the left-hand side is a map that we generated for one of our clients. You can see that it's entirely in GIS, which means that it can be held digitally online or in your systems and updated and manipulated as necessary. And as we look at the community in the various chunks that I've kind of highlighted here, what we would do is not just have those highlighted areas, but we would say, okay, this area is primarily farmland, probably going to be developed for low-density residential or some multifamily housing, and here's how we're going to do that. We're going to set priorities, we're going to generate recommendations, we're going to really help define what it is the community envisions for each of these areas, so that as the community continues to evolve, it's doing so in a way that has some guardrails. It's not that we want to put a roadblock in front of anybody, but we want to provide guardrails so that nobody goes off into the ditch. Here's another example of something that I love to do. So let's take community as a whole and set goals for ourselves. Our parks, something that we're focused on. Our better sidewalks, something that we're focused on. Multi-use paths, is that something we're focused on? Stormwater concerns, is that something we're focused on? And then let's set those broad goals as a community as something that is worked on intentionally moving forward with everything that we do. So here's some of our themes and strategies. Downtown renewal, preservation and prosperity, utilities, connected communities. And then we also run, as part of our survey, we'll take a community preference survey where we will be engaging both directly digitally, but also in other ways, meeting the community where they're at, and finding out what is it that they envision for their future, what is it that they use now, what do they want in the future, what don't they want, what do they want to protect their community from. Then these are the building blocks of our planning process. So we have the project stakeholder meetings, plan conditions survey through the steering committee, the community survey, the student survey, stakeholder interviews. So not just trying to reach out to business owners, but actually reaching out to the individuals, because we're going to be engaging with this community on the individual level. Establishing best practices for the community, and then providing, we're not going to go away when this plan when we take the draft stamp off the plan. MSG and Reveille both believe that if we've engaged with the community, we're in for a penny, we're in for a pound. So once this plan is written, we will make ourselves available to you, continuing moving forward. If there are questions, if there are things that you want to revisit, if there are concerns that arise, we don't want to see this just become a binder on a shelf. We want to see a community flourish. We're going to look at funding and tie funding resources directly to the plan components that you want to prioritize as a community. So not just say, hey, here's some grants, they look nice, maybe think about them. We're actually going to help you prioritize and strategize about the funding that you're going to pursue based on what goals you have for yourself. So that you can do things like build momentum for specific action areas of Commercial Point. At Manic Smith Group, we have secured over $319 million. Stop that. Since 2004, and or since 2000, 319, 204 million in just Ohio. We've also engaged with numerous other funding sources. Jeez Louise, I must have left a timer on. The big one that I want to bring up to you guys, because we've been, like I said, we've been in communication now for a little while about this with you. The Pickaway Progress Partnership is very interested in supporting your efforts through the Smart Growth Initiative. That could actually provide you $15,000 just for planning efforts. And that's something that we would be willing to help you tackle right off the bat to help make this something that is feasible and sustainable for the community. In terms of a timeline, as was mentioned, typically something like this can take up to a year. I hesitate to give you a direct timeline until we decide exactly what this plan looks like for you. I'm not going to come out here and give you guys a cookie cutter. This is what we always do with every community, therefore this is what you must do. Our first step would actually be to sit down with everyone and say, what are the needs? What are the asks? You guys, let's let the community set the finish line, and then I can help recommend the route to get there. I think it's so important that from the get-go, this is a community-driven process. There are so many different things that can be spun off of a comprehensive planning effort that I want to make sure that from the ground up, the goals of this effort and how we get there are really driven by the community, and then we can just help you make that a reality. So that's what I've got for you tonight. Obviously, I'm Brandon Hill with Manic Smith Group. Glenn Grisdale is the gentleman who owns and operates Reveille. He unfortunately could not be here tonight. He is able to focus on 4 of these plans a year. And he's got another one of his clients that required him to tonight. But I have talked with him, and he is so very excited about the idea of coming alongside Commercial Point and having the ability to bring your guys' vision to fruition. So that's my presentation tonight. I would love to take any questions or comments that you guys have.
A couple of questions.
Yeah.
Last time we saw you was what, 5-6 months ago?
Yes, sir.
Okay. You explained at that time you were going to give us a menu of pricing. I haven't seen anything. Okay, I've got 2 other bids here, and they both have pricing attached to them. I mean, this is the 3rd time I've heard your presentation, and I still got no idea what you're charging.
Yeah. So Jay, typically the way that this would work is a community would publish what's called a request for proposals. And that establishes essentially the items off the menu that a community would like to order. And then the client, the consultant is able to come in and say, okay, based on the size of your community and what it is that you're very interested in, I can provide you these services for these costs. Since there was no formal RFP, I didn't.
There was, because we all sat down and we all agreed this is what we were looking for. And that's when you said you'd write the menu. So if you're telling me you were going to write the menu, but now you're telling me it's not.
So when we had talked about that, it was prior to the election. There was a
6 months.
Yes, there was a much different version of what was being asked for, right? As I mentioned in my presentation, originally what was asked for was bare bones, around $30,000. Make sure that you're touching on multi-use paths and updating the map with some descriptions, and that was it. Since then, there's been a lot of evolution here.
I must have missed the meetings because I don't remember those being the only 2 things. I really don't. But I mean, Eric, you were in the meetings. I mean, we talked about a lot of things. It's the reason we were going to get a menu price. I mean, if you were going to give me 2 prices, you would have said 2 prices. Okay, you didn't say that. You said, now you've changed. The whole presentation has changed since the first time.
Well, but and I'm going to on that.
Yeah.
Did we change because Randy's not going to be involved and
No,
Randy is going to be doing it?
No, Randy's still here. So Randy works for Manic Smith Group.
Yeah.
He's with our municipal team. Still part of our team, 100%. What I've done since the last time that we had this conversation, was reached out to Reveille, one of our longtime partners, and said, hey, now that Commercial Point has kind of seen that there needs to be a real intentionality behind the engagement with this effort, I'd like to bring somebody in that is all they do day in and day out, that is out here actually inspiring and training some of the other folks that are here today. And so that's what we've done. And I think that what we've presented is the best team for this community. Our next step would be to actually have in writing a request from the village about what services you are interested in, what the scope is, because I could tell you right now, if you want to do no public engagement, just give me, what we were discussing at the beginning of this whole presentation, could you get that done for 30 grand? Yeah, you could. 30, 35 grand all day long. Do I think that that's best for the community? I don't personally. So how much do one of these cost? Well, everything that I've talked through here tonight, anywhere between, you could go $50,000 to $100,000 depending on how crazy you want things to get. Do I think that you need to drop 100 grand on something like this? No, you don't. I would want to right size this based on the budget that the community deems fit, that you as the community leaders deem fit, and the goals that you guys set. I could, and I mentioned this to Nancy when she and I were discussing this, without a formal published RFP, it's very difficult to do an apples to apples conversation. What always occurs with this sort of selection is there's a published RFP that goes out to the public. You receive hopefully back at least 3 responses.
Can I ask what RFP is?
Request for proposals. Okay. Yeah. So typically you would have a community that publishes a request for proposals and says, we are seeking these services for this timeline, for this scope of community. And then that tells the consultant what it is that you're actually asking for. Because I can do a survey of this community for a couple of grand and just post some stuff on SurveyMonkey and Facebook and call it a day. Or I can get out in the community and actually knock on doors, meet people where they're at, and generate something that's truly reflective of the community. And those are 2 very different size projects. So that's why I didn't present any money associated with this effort tonight, was because I think that that's a conversation that needs to happen when the community leadership has a very solid idea of what it is that you're asking for. And when you do that, I will be happy to get you those prices. I just didn't want to throw something out there that maybe wasn't reflective of what you really needed or wanted. Did you have more questions, Shay?
No, I'm just surprised that the presentation changed the way it did, so.
Well, okay, yeah.
And as I said, I was expecting one thing that you told us you were gonna give us, and you didn't. So I don't have a lot of confidence in the presentation. I really don't.
All right, well, I'll leave it with.
That's just me, so don't.
I understand, and I'll just leave it with, like I said, things have evolved greatly as to what's being sought by the community today compared to 6 months ago.
And you know that how? Did any of us, all of us told you that?
Well, what I was asked to present on tonight and what was discussed, frankly, throughout the election process was much different than 6 months ago when we first started talking about this. So I wanted to try and make sure that we reflected what it seemed like folks wanted to talk about. And as I mentioned, I think we brought a wonderful team to the table, and I hope for the opportunity to be able to speak with you all further on this.
Brandon, you mentioned our budget. Are you saying there's room with some of your pricing where if we want something, you're going to work with our budget?
I want to, absolutely.
Okay, and that's something you have the ability to do?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we would want to right-size the planning approach based on what your needs are and what it would practically take. There are some things that, if you told me, I want you to go out and have 3 dozen community outreach efforts throughout a year and do it for $2,500, probably can't do that.
Yeah.
But that's part of our iterative process here would be, I would want to work with the community leadership to make sure that we understand fully what it is that you envision this taking. We'll bring our folks to the table that say, this is typically what it would take for a community your size. And then let's find what works for everyone to make sure that you get what you need as a community for the budget that you have available. And like I said, I've already identified where we can bring in some additional funds to help make that more feasible.
Thank you.
I know you did say, you know, you couldn't give pricing right now, so I guess what I need from you guys is, where do you want, what is most important to you? Think about it, email it, I can put it in an email to you. And your turnaround time would be very quickly of getting me those numbers, and then I could send them out to everybody.
And all I would ask is if it could be a aggregate request. If everybody could take what they envision needing to be done, aggregate that request into a singular list that Nancy can send out, that will give me something that I can actually respond to with some confidence. And I'm sure the other consultants may speak to the same, but that's where I stand on it.
Would you be the one that is leading this effort from the MSG side? Would you be kind of our primary point of contact, or would it be somebody from Revelry? Or?
So that's a great question, and I do want to touch on that. My background, I'm a senior project manager at MSG.
Right.
I'm an environmental scientist. I'm a community resiliency expert, meaning what I do is help make sure that communities are future-proof. I look at the human resources, the natural resources, the physical demands, the economic demands that are put on the community, and I help to figure out what's the future look like for you. How do I make that most successful? We would have Glenn as the lead planner on this effort from Reveille, but he and I would work very closely. I would essentially be your point of contact, if you would, for the planning team. But I don't want to step outside of my lane either, right? Like, I'm not a full-blown community planner. Glenn is. But as somebody who is here local, who knows the community well, I would be a very accessible point of contact for you. Within MSG, we have Randy, who is a wonderful municipal engineer, phenomenal individual for this sort of effort. A gentleman named Hans Rosebrot, who recently was awarded an honor for his recent economic predictions for a community. So we would have him as an economic planner. I would make sure that we brought a team of top-of-the-line experts to the table, but I would essentially act as the point of contact for making sure that the right people got connected to each other, and that you were always getting the service that you deserve.
Sure. I hear in your presentation and these comments, like the concerned citizens, and bringing even, you know, your observations of Facebook comments and the election and things like that to the table, right? I would hate for you to get brought out in front of us as a community member, and then if we said go, you know, we wanted to go ahead with you, and then this be like the last time we saw you.
No, so.
Oh, he won't go away.
Yeah, Eric's well aware. Eric's well aware of me. There is and I touched on this in my previous presentation regarding what this would look like moving forward, which is, in my role with MSG, I would act as the one responsible for making sure that the community got the quality of service that they deserve, and that you are connected with the right people who are doing what they're an expert in. If you're doing anything in the environmental side, ecological, natural resources, I'm going to be your guy doing that service anyway. And then outside of that role as a planner, I will remain an active community member as I always have been. We care a lot about this community. Like I said, our kids go to school here. My wife works over at Pick 'em Up Joe's. We're embedded here and will remain so, but I do pride myself in the ability to remain a professional, keep my professional and my personal interest separate when it comes to this sort of thing. What's driving me up to be on this dais today, as I said at the beginning, there are some wonderful people in this room that want to serve commercial pool. I feel we've got the best tools for the job. If you guys feel that too, I'd love to be the one to serve you. If not, you can bet I'll remain involved just because I do care so much about this community. But I really do hope that it's something that we're able to accomplish together.
Questions? Thank you, Brandon.
Thank you guys. Appreciate your time tonight.
Okay, our last presenter is Brian with Envision. Hiding out in the hall.
Yeah.
Do you need a US HDMI?
Thank you.
Oh, the solicitor, you gave one?
Yeah, that's fine. You counted correctly, thank you.
Appreciate it.
Okay, I didn't even put that together.
No, you're good. I was just
Yeah,
taking
that's
account.
true, yeah.
That's fine.
Oh, is that you?
No, you
It's a little
use it?
bit.
We got it, we're right here.
Yeah, I mean, I don't care. I'll say it after you, but you guys know. Or had someone he's a dude,
Yeah.
and he didn't say something.
Yeah.
Because that's your inheritance, right? But if I had a piece of farm property, obviously it's gonna be worth $500.
He already handed it up.
That's it. Keep them, yeah, plus a lot of rental property, a lot of farm property.
Yeah. Yes.
Oh, they don't care.
She just, she ran the restaurant.
Oh, okay.
She can catch up.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah, and we'll be brief because I know sitting through 3 of these is a lot to sit through in one night. So, I'm Ryan Smalley with Envision. It's good to see some of you again, new faces. Hello. I'd be the project manager for Envision on the comprehensive planning process. So, what I'm going to do today is I'm going to walk through our team really quick, the services we provide, give you some relevant examples of projects that we've worked on throughout the state, some that pertain to some of the questions that we've gotten since we've submitted our scope and fee about connectivity in parks, some examples of how we've taken some of the ideas and some of the focus areas in cities that were parks and connectivity focused and helped implement those things going forward. So then talk a little bit about the process, community engagement, and then our focus. So as I said, Brian Smalley, been doing this for 20 years, started Envision with Amel now 10 years ago, so a decade of doing this. I'm an engineer and a planner by trade. You started off working for the DOT, doing consulting work, designing trails, roadways, got sick of all the things that Susan does, and went back to school, became a planner, and fits much better. So we have that technical knowledge, and then we can use that to sort of help implement some of these projects or ideas that come out of the plan. I'll let Amel and Tom are here today, both part of our team. I'll just let them introduce themselves real quick.
Hi, Amel Isney, as Ryan mentioned, co-founder of Envision. I serve as your lead planner here supporting Ryan, by trade, engineer and planner like Ryan. Also an attorney, don't usually mention it because people think I'm expensive or corrupt, but it does help when we talk about zoning, development regulations, incentives, it is a value add. And I'll turn it over to Tom.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Tom Muller. I'm the Director of Public Finance for Envision. My background's a little bit different than Emil and Ryan's. I was a city manager for almost 43 years. I was city manager in Mason, Ohio for almost 10 years, and then was city manager in Madeira, Ohio, just outside of Cincinnati for almost 34 years. So I began work with the Envision Group back in 2023, and again, I'll be doing some of the fiscal impact analysis. I'll talk about that a little bit later on.
And just to round out our team real quick, we have a couple other members, Jen Six, Director of Economic Development, and Fred Guerrero, zoning expert. So we have a holistic group. The people that you see here, people you see on the screen, or who will be working on your plan. We work in communities like this with experiencing tons of growth and tons of pressure, and trying to plan for the future that can seem overwhelming as it's sort of coming at you at once. So we have all the requisite pieces to be able to do this project. As I said, we're 10 years old, Envision. We do work all across the state. We have people all across the state, Cleveland, Columbus, Cincinnati. We are an interdisciplinary team, as I mentioned, planners and engineers, old public officials that do public finance and economic development work. So we have a whole group of experts that we lean upon when doing a plan like this. Our portfolio is diverse because of that, so we do a lot of land use planning, we do a lot of comprehensive planning. We do a lot of connectivity and infrastructure planning. That's kind of from the old days of doing engineering. We do a lot of trail. That seems to be the trendy thing. Sidewalks and trails, pretty much everywhere. People are looking to find better ways to connect to assets. So we do a lot of connectivity planning and then economic development planning. So, how do we leverage some of the tools? You're already using some of them, tips and things like that, to sort of leverage future investment. How do we continue to leverage that in a productive way so that you can see some benefits from this growth? Our focus is always implementation. I think that's what sets us apart. We're always looking at a plan and looking for ways to have quick wins right off the plan so that you're something that comes out of the plan. Usually people get excited about this process. This is exciting to sort of plan for the future. You get the public involved, you get stakeholders involved, and people want to see something come out of this after it starts. Sometimes things take a long time. There's going to be things in here that you may never ever get to because it's so far out. But there should be things that are near-term goals that can be tangible. Some of those are going to be infrastructure goals. Some of those might be going after grants to get a section of a trail or a sidewalk. Some of that might be implementing an economic development tool that might be able to help leverage growth, or maybe it's some zoning changes so that when a new development comes in, you have the buffer standards that are set so that you don't have to go every development that comes in, negotiate with the developer as to what exactly that should be. Looking for ways to sort of get quick wins. Land use planning experience all throughout the state, all different shapes and sizes of communities. We work in townships and villages, cities, regions, counties. We've done plans or are doing plans right now for all different size communities. Have been on the other side of this in the township side, trying to stave off annexation. Have been on the city side, the village side, looking to sort of manage the growth that's coming in. So have that experience sort of both ways. As I mentioned, connectivity and park planning experience. We do a lot of active transportation planning and trail planning. The image up there is from the city of Medina. That was a holistic multi-use trail plan where they've been awarded multiple grants over the past couple of years off that plan. Some of their shorter sections of trail, some of the priority sections. We help them find funding through various different methods. One thing I wanted to touch on, because I know we got questions about connectivity and parks planning being a focus, and can that be part of a comprehensive plan? And absolutely, yes, it can. Typically what we want to do is we want to hear from a steering committee and the public to sort of define what those focus areas are. So we don't want to come in and preempt the process and say, oh yeah, you should do these things. We want to hear from you, we want to hear from the public as to what we keep hearing themes about. When you start doing a community survey or talking to the steering committee, especially in that first meeting where we would have everybody in a room, is to start asking them about what they like to see, what they don't like to see. You start to hear themes, you start to see themes, and those are the things that we want to focus in on. Now, hearing from this group already that trails and parks are something that might be a theme of this, I wanted to show an example of where this happened. This happens multiple times, but this is one in the city of Brunswick where we did their comprehensive plan. They had a 15-year-old plan. One of the focus areas that came out of that process was they wanted to improve sidewalk and trail connectivity throughout the city. So we jumped on that as one of the focus areas. I think they had 4 or 5 in that plan, and started asking the public more detailed questions about, hey, okay, so you want trails, but like, where do you want trails to actually go? What do you want them to connect to? What are you trying to get to? And came up with a whole listing of about 5 to 7 trail segments. This was one that sort of fell through as one of the bigger connections. It's the Plum Creek Greenway. It's about 3 miles of trail. A lot of it was along public lands. We drew this up as part of the comprehensive planning process. We gave the city the toolkit to be able to go after the funding. So not only did we draw the line and say, oh, hey, this is where it might go, we broke it down and phased it and said, hey, this is a 3 or 4 phase process. This is going to be fairly expensive. Here are some of the big roadblocks. Here's the preliminary cost, and here are the funding sources that you should go after. On the back end of the plan being done, we helped the city write 2 successful ODNR trail grants for about $800,000 in total. Helped them work through the easement process to get a couple of easements that they needed, and then leverage some funds that they had in a parks fund that they didn't know what to do with to be able to complete this trail. Now this trail is, as of last spring, in the ground, which is super fast. I have to admit, if you go from 0 to 3 miles finished in roughly 5 years, that's fast. But part of the reason it worked was because we had people on the steering committee that were part of going to be along this trail route. We had the church, we had the Parks District, we had people involved at a higher level that were all on board with this and were part of the process. So it made it a little bit easier to go, hey, this is the next step. So I encourage you, when you're putting together the steering committee, to think about that, and to also think about having interviews with some of those stakeholders that might be the people that you need to talk to after you're done with the process. I'll throw it over to Emil real quick, let him talk about the process.
Thanks, Ryan. So just, if you want to control that.
Okay.
4-step process, we like to keep this simple. Our first phase is our identify phase, and that's really getting in front of you. We usually recommend a steering committee, so a representative from council, planning commission, community members, anybody representing a civic group or a board is a good candidate. Somebody who might be pro-development, somebody who might be small town, never develop. Cross-section of the community, and that should also be by age, demographics, family, household type, empty nesters, young families. A good cross-section that shows people, and also geographically in different neighborhoods. I know you're a small village, but we don't want everybody in the same subdivision or the old part of town versus the new part, if you get it. That first phase is really goals and vision, really identifying those focus areas, as Ryan mentioned. It may be thematic focus areas like green space, housing, aesthetics, economic development, or it might be very specific to a geographic area, a corridor, an old town square, an intersection, a neighborhood, riparian stream. Those are all things that we'd identify early so that we know to focus in through the process on that. And that'll be the steering committee guiding us on that. We're the facilitators, this is your plan, I want to stress that. That second phase is the assessment. Now we have some qualitative desires and visions from that first phase, but now we kind of have to put the pen to paper and say, okay, what can we support from an economic development standpoint, a housing, community infrastructure standpoint, from a fiscal standpoint, what can we afford? And that's what Tom's going to talk about here in a second as a former city manager and as an adjunct professor of public finance. That third phase is getting into the recommendations. We're making the maps, we're doing the renderings, we're showing you what your community could like and look like in some different options for land use, for community assets, for design standards. We're going to get input at each of these phases, but at that input we're getting reactions on, do you like this, do you not? There may be options, there may be different development intensities or lack of development intensities, maybe focused in preservation, whether that be farmland or park space, or some kind of riparian corridors. Those are all things that will vet themselves through the process with your input. The last phase, that final phase, is the important part, and I think this is where our technical, our legal, our finance backgrounds, our economic development backgrounds come into play. If you don't have the tools to get the plan done, it's a plan that sits on the shelf, and you may have one that was like that in the past based on our earlier discussions. So we're really talking here about some recommendations for zoning. Land use is that first step. It's not the legally binding piece, but there's going to be some recommendations on things that you're going to need to do in your code to strengthen it and make it more conducive to implementing the vision. We also may be looking at things like incentives and how we structure those. and how we make sure that the developers pay their fair share, and there's clawbacks in there if they don't perform to the specifications we set forward. We certainly want to look at grants and outside funding. Ryan mentioned our success in the grant field, and it's important to note that as you do this process, one thing when you go after a grant application is, do you have a comprehensive plan? Do you have a master plan? Is it within the last 5 years? These are things that are going to be additional points when you apply. And while some grants are somewhat political and involve lobbying and backdoor political pressure, a lot of these have a scoring system that's got to be defensible because it's a public record. So you want to check these boxes. Another box is going to be, did you have public input? Well, a good plan like this one should have public input. And Ryan will step through a little more of that, but we're going to have that at each phase, and we're going to be able to identify because people participated in surveys. They did exercises that showed this is a community preference, and that's going to help you score better. The other thing, as Ryan mentioned, is those red flags. Are there something in this corridor alignment that's going to be a challenge, a wetland, a stream crossing, bad soils? These are the kind of things that we are going to identify at a high level. Yes, there's always next steps. Susan and her team are going to go do that detailed engineering. But you need to have a good plan in place so that they're not trying to reverse engineer something that can never happen. We want to have a feasible plan. So we look at this as a year-long process. We think that's appropriate for your size village. Understanding while you're small, you have a lot of development pressure, and there's a lot of growth in the area. And this is going to be, just by the full house we've seen in each council meeting we've appeared at, it's pretty obvious you're going to have a lot of public involvement. So we need time, because when we draw something up, we get in front of our committee, is this something you'd like to share with the public? Is this something you're comfortable with as an option? That takes some time. We got to share it with the public. We have to make sure it's out there beyond just an in-person meeting. It's got to be on the website. Ryan will talk a little bit about online surveys and ways to capture people who couldn't make it because they're looking after their kids or have a sporting event or have to be elsewhere. They're working late. This process will take care of all that. We really see the core plan developed in 9 to 10 months. And then we're going through draft revisions for that last 2 to 3, depending on just schedules, when exactly we start, when holidays fall. And I'll be honest, you know, it's planning, so there's times when a crisis might come up and you might push back a meeting. Those are things that happen during this process. We work with you to fit this process to your goals and needs. And just to cover deliverables, people always ask, what do we get? Again, everything we listed, vision and goal statements, existing and future conditions, meaning your demographics, your geographic information systems, what are your physical characteristics, your infrastructure, what are area plans. If you look at the fiscal impacts Tom will talk about, future land use map is this critical piece. It's that next step to how do we want to update zoning in the future. It's higher level, it's not going to get as specific, devils in the details, but that's why we have recommendations for zoning. Obviously annexation, do you want to annex more? What are those areas? What do you want those areas to look like? Those extraterritorial jurisdictions is critical. There's going to be a lot of attention paid to that in this process. Do you want to have major capital projects? Presumably with any type of growth, you're going to have additional needs. You're certainly going to have state of good repair, maintenance. We're going to help you through that process, align you with grants. A lot of that is stuff that EDG is tracking every day, so they're putting you in the right direction, but we want to empower them so when they take this plan, they can copy a few pages out, attach it to a grant application they're familiar with, and help you guide you and get this implemented, shovels in the ground. An implementation strategy, those other tools, zoning, public-private partnerships. There may be philanthropic or just grassroots community boards, civic volunteer efforts. Those things sometimes arise during the process. And I'll turn it over to Tom to talk about fiscal impacts.
Thank you, Emil. I didn't mention in my qualifications, and Emil hinted at it, as I also had the privilege and pleasure of being an adjunct professor at Xavier University and the University of Cincinnati, teaching public budgeting and finance. So I did that for a handful of years during my tenure as city manager. So that's how I became involved with Envision as the director of public finance. As a city manager, and you're in this realm as well, you know that the budget is the most important thing that the community manage. And as a city manager, that was the most important thing that I did. So when we talk about fiscal impact analysis of changes within the community, that's something that's going to be very important as part of this comprehensive plan, because you're going to have development opportunities and you're going to want to leverage those opportunities. Well, those opportunities are going to potentially impact your budget, impact both expenditures as well as revenue. So one of the things that we'll do is as the plan is being developed, we will look at those potential development opportunities, either commercial, residential, can be either one, and look at how that is going to impact the budget, how that's going to impact revenue, how that's going to impact expenditures, and then the council, and as the policymaking body, will have the opportunity to make the decision. Do we want to change the land use? Do we want to change the zoning to accommodate a particular development? It becomes a fiscal decision. So that's one of my roles in this, is to help make that determination, or help you make that determination of whether or not a development is good for the fiscal health of the community.
Thanks, Tom. And real quick, I'll just end on a couple quick slides about community outreach. We haven't touched on that at all, but it's critical to getting a good plan. The plans that have more public outreach are the plans that end up being better, even if there's controversy in what you're proposing. We have communities that sometimes want to shy away from that, and I would encourage you to not shy away from that. The more that we can get out in front of the community at events in particular, we can have, we have public meetings. I think we proposed 3 public forums in here. We like those to be interactive. We like to have a little presentation and then have some boards around to have people come up and give us specific feedback on focus areas or on recommendations that we want to get more feedback on. But we also would like to get out into the community. That's usually where we get better feedback. People are already doing something. We're over there with our boards and saying, come over here. They're at least already there, and they feel almost maybe sometimes obligated to put some pins in, which is great because we want to get feedback. So the more places we can be present, the better. Targeted interviews with stakeholders and business owners is something we do all the time. Jen Six, our economic development director, she does that pretty much everywhere we work. I do want to touch on the community surveys, both online and in print. It's critical that we do it in print because there are people that don't want to take the surveys online, but I also think that we provide a little extra flavor with Maptionaire, which is an online survey tool that we use that helps us replicate some of the things we do physically that are always sometimes hard to get online. So a map where I want you to put a pin where in your neighborhood you're having traffic concerns. It's very hard for us to put just a text survey in there to say, hey, where do you have traffic concerns? Maptionaire gives us the ability to say, hey, here's a map. You're going to be able to go online, place a pin that says, hey, I want to see a trail connect from here to here. You can draw it on the map, or say, hey, this is an asset that I'd love to connect to, or a park, a location where I'd love to see a park. We can ask a whole host of different questions, get feedback geographically, and in GIS, the bottom picture there is a heat map of some of the results from the question above, where we're asking, this is in the city of Ashtabula, where we're doing a comprehensive plan right now. We said, hey, there's these 5 or 6 neighborhoods in your neighborhood. What do you want to see? Here's a list of different things, different options that the steering committee came up with, said, hey, these are things that I would like to see in my neighborhood. Let's ask the public. And the public was able to go in, put pins in places in their neighborhood where they say, oh, yeah, this is I'm having a traffic concern here. I'm afraid to cross the street, or I'd like to see sidewalks here, or I want to see a park. That information can be put into a heat map, and we can pinpoint where, okay, this is where we're getting a lot of responses from a neighborhood, or, oh, we didn't get a lot of responses from a neighborhood. Maybe we need to do more outreach over here. Obviously, you guys are smaller, so that might not be as critical, but I think it's a great tool for us to be able to take what we do at public meetings and put it online, so if you can't get to a public meeting, you can participate in the same way. Real quick, the emphasis on implementation, that's what we pride ourselves on. This is Madera, Ohio, which Tom was the former city manager of. We've worked there for, 8 years now, working with them, doing 2 comprehensive plans. They completed so many things in their first comprehensive plan that we had to do a new one in 5 years because they've already achieved so many of their goals. They are a bellwether. They were very excited about the planning process. They were around for 80 years, never had a plan. So it was their first plan after 80 years. Really took it to heart. We've been able to get them over $10 million in funding for various projects. Their Main Street project, where they wanted to do their downtown, they wanted to redo their streets and streetscaping. We got them funding for that. We got them funding for their McDonald Commons Park, layered it on with the TIF so that we could leverage some of the improvements that people wanted to see at their main park. Also did some signing, zoning code updates. So we've been working in Madera forever, but we always like to show them as sort of the shining beacon on the hill of implementation. And then that's it. We done. Let's open up for questions.
Just where it's long. The first thing that kind of jumped out to me, really my only question is, when it comes to glad we finished on the community engagement piece because looking at your schedule, it seems like some of the placement with particularly public forums not coming until about 4 months in, and then the last one following the steering committee, but being in month 11 and following the completion of the implementation phase.
So
I was wondering if you could talk to this,
Yeah.
the logic behind that.
So the first public forum, what we want to do is we want to meet with this. We want to meet with the steering committee, meet with staff at the village, and get an understanding of what that steering committee and what the staff sort of think are the focus areas. I think those first couple months are just trying to get our footing, as you could say, in the community. You guys have already done a lot of. I know you had a land use committee for a while. There's been stuff that's been done. We want to catch up on that and start doing some existing conditions analysis. And then that second steering committee meeting is really to vet with the steering committee. Hey, we want to go out to the public. We want to talk about these things. Is this something we want to? Are these the sort of focus areas that we want to address?
Yeah, and I would just add that in that first phase, we're doing a community survey that's broad, online and in print, and that's going to be very high level. What are your concerns by topic? Housing, economic development, traffic, areas geographically, and that's just getting out to the masses, high level. At that first meeting, we're going to share those results with the community and start to ask more detailed questions based on that initial feedback. So I don't want to say we're not interacting with the public from day one.
Oh, yeah.
And as far as timing of public forums, we're flexible. If we think for transparency reasons, we need to do this on day one because people are going to be really upset. A lot of times that steering committee will be, it'll be an open meeting, so community members are invited to attend and listen, and maybe a comment period at the end, but they're not necessarily participating in the dialogue of the meeting as part of the agenda, if that makes sense.
So yeah, so the first round is really sort of the focus area, is getting an idea of what people want to see. The second round would be, hey, we went back to the steering committee, we took that information that we got from the steering committee to the public and said, okay, here's some ideas, steering committee, as far as recommendations go. What do you think? And how do we want to present these recommendations to the public? So that next round would have another survey with questions about the recommendations as well as public forums to say, hey, these are the ideas. We listened to you. These are some of the things that we think are important. What do you think? And then there's sort of a iterative process where we say, okay, there's some changes, we'll go back. That third round is sort of, hey, the plan is pretty much in draft form. We've come back to the steering committee again, we've made some changes based on the public, and sort of this is the final document-ish. Hey, public, here's the final document-ish. What do you think? Is there something that we missed? That's sort of how the rounds of engagement go. We're always kind of engaged with the populace either through a survey or through going to community events to sort of promote some of those other things. But I would say just in generalities, that's how those three waves go. And they don't necessarily have to be right there. And those are things that we could talk with the steering committee at our first meeting. How do we want to do this public engagement process exactly? Are there events where it might make more sense for us to maybe hold off on a public meeting for another month and then go to 2 events that you're going to get, half the community at? I think that's something that we always want to work with the steering committee on at that first meeting, figure out what that process is.
So you're saying this timeline's somewhat variable?
Yeah,
There's
it's
some flexibility to it,
we
yes.
could put bigger bubbles on there, but yeah, it's flexible.
Yeah. And I'd also say for transparency, when the steering committee meets after that meeting, we will post whatever presentation was given to them on the project website. That Maptionary Ryan mentioned is just part of our overhead. We would have a project website where these activities and surveys would be, and any kind of documents, as well as a little bit of just summary of what the process is and how you can get involved would be up there. And that's our job to maintain that. You can link that directly as a page on your municipal website. You can post it to your socials, to partners. Yeah, just wanted to, we're not just doing this in a room where only the cool kids are invited. We do want it to be inclusive.
So you'll maintain that
Yes,
the
that's our
whole
job.
way through. So
Absolutely.
as things update and change, you will update and change that, and the
Yes.
public can access it at any time then?
Anytime. And we can prepare you little social media feeds, flyers, the visuals. We have those templates for meeting dates, take the survey, all those things. That's our job. We just ask that you get it up on your website.
Okay.
A lot of QR
Perfect.
codes, a lot of QR
Yeah,
codes.
well, with the school, they kind of did the same thing with the bond. I know a lot of people that couldn't go to meetings and stuff, they use the QR codes to read.
We do that for the
website.
surveys, the community surveys, people can take it right off their phone. that they decide.
Yeah. And we've done things as simple as having yard signs printed with QR codes,
Mhm.
take the community survey and just put one in each neighborhood. It's we've
Very
had some
effective.
communities say, oh, that's trashy, we don't like that. But it gets the word out and people will see them. So if you're concerned about getting the word out, that's one way to do it.
And then I noticed you guys don't have a price point either, so is it kind of like the other one you?
We
Yeah.
did previously, I apologize, this is just our presentation. We
Yeah.
did submit you a formal quote that still stands.
That still stands?
Yes.
Okay, I wanna make sure that didn't.
Yes.
I got that, but I wanna make sure it didn't change since you gave us.
No, absolutely.
Okay.
I have a question. When you look for outside funding, at what phase are you aware of the funding that would be possible? Do you wait until like phase 2 to say, hey, we have these grants that are possible? Or do you kind of know through all the 4 phases to get us maximum funding?
Yeah, we're looking at that, kind of reverse engineering these things from day one. That's our wheelhouse, is we're constantly reviewing these sources. If we haven't worked with it before, we're probably listening to the webinar or going to the meetings to stay up to date on these things. So that's our job, to kind of let you know, hey, this might be a fundable project. And not to reverse engineer everything to a grant. Obviously, it's important to see, do you really want something? Are you a community in search of a project or a community in search of a funding? That becomes sometimes a tie-up, because we don't want to. Some communities will go after every grant, and then their community will be like, why are we applying this? We don't want to widen this road or narrow this road or add this trail. So we want to make sure that this comes out organically. But yes, that's something we look at early so we can start to pair those opportunities. Because almost all grants have what's called the local match, the dreaded local. Sometimes you can use another source, but a lot of times you need to have something out of pocket. So we need to think about where that comes from and if that's something you can even take on.
That's a good point.
And those funding opportunities occur throughout the year. So there are various timelines, various time frames that occurs, and we basically keep our eye on those relative to what's going on.
And what about afterwards? What about after we go through this phase? Or is there I don't want to call it a maintenance phase, but we have a kind of a maintenance phase that looks at some of those things, say, hey, look, here are these opportunities now, or we can help you with these that may not have been presented. Is that something you also included with?
So what we do is set you up with an implementation matrix and timelines, priorities, funding cycles. Now, of course, that's only as good as the minute we end, because things do change, and that's realistic. Now, we have communities like Madera where we're on call for a nominal fee, and we'll visit their planning commission any month where they have something worth discussing. It's pretty frequent, so I spend a lot of time down there. And they're excited and energetic. What we recommend and what we've done to set up a template for them is to have a council review every year of the plan priorities and major recommendations. And because council changes, priorities change, budgets change, things happen. That's the real world. Hey, we did this plan to the best of our abilities at this time, but we might want to make this higher on the list. That was a good idea, but because of state law or some other change in the market, that might not be feasible anymore. And that's okay. No one can predict everything in the future. It's a living document. We're happy to engage with you, and we always, at the end, conclude this with kind of an implementation session with council, because that's ultimately, we're on the hook for getting this approved. So our price is our price. We have to get this through your council. And we believe by having these public meetings, all this input, makes that easier, makes the medicine go down a little easier. So that's why we encourage it.
Anything else? Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Okay, we're gonna move on. Council meeting dates. You all have a copy of them? Discussion? Not, do I have a motion? Motion to approve by Trish. Second by Ezekiel. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Council roles. There were no changes from, that's why there weren't anything.
Actually, I submitted in what I proposed
Okay,
for
you wanna
to make
bring that up?
those amended, yes.
I got her copy because I didn't get one.
So basically, it would be portion 3, just for notifications. I just added a couple suggestions. And thank you, Mayor, for this previous meeting, putting that on the Village of Commercial Point Facebook group. That was just one of the recommendations. It just didn't catch up that you did that, so thank you.
Sure.
And then the second one would be the legislation procedure, and that's only in relevance to the ad hoc committees. So once we go through that process in business item H, would that be changed?
Right, so I will update the, council meeting notifications. We'll have that fresh copy next month. Are there any other changes to council rules?
I would just ask that in the future, we can send red line copies.
There were no red lines.
Yeah, I noticed that comparing them, but.
Okay. Next up is the, oh, well. Do we wanna, he wants to possibly add something else,
Yeah, to Ezekiel's point, we'll have a red line version at the town meeting. Vote on them and meeting
Okay.
following.
Okay, adopt administrative employees guideline. We did make some changes, but it's mostly like salaries where we just added, we have to add an hourly sergeant, which isn't on here, I'm gonna add that, we already have the salaried, it's that page.
Should we make those changes?
Yeah, I'm just saying if there's anything, I was telling you what I was gonna change, and if there's any other changes, anybody want to make, I can make those changes, redline and stuff.
Okay.
So are there any other additions to administrative employees?
I did not see where there was a date for the employee reviews to be discussed. It said they were to be done, but I
Yeah.
didn't see a date for them to be done by. Now, if we're gonna do every 6 months, maybe we should just pick, I don't know, May 15th and November 12th or whatever.
We usually just do yearly, not what
We do a yearly raise, and
Yeah.
I'm looking at this wage schedule, this is not the updated one.
Okay.
So that will have to be changed.
Okay.
If they so desire to change.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
the
you
raises
wanna,
are usually
No.
not in May.
yeah,
Just
so
asking
you
for
wanna make
changes.
it be May of whatever,
So are we doing it twice a year or once a year? Is it for a once a year raise? Is that what it's?
We do raises, is what the book says is the first full paycheck in May.
So then maybe just a yearly, I mean, I feel like that's what most,
I do too.
I mean, they do a
Yeah.
yearly review.
Are you
I would
doing
say
the
have
raise
it
and
done
review
by
at the same
the
time?
December 15th maybe?
There's gonna be a review.
Yes.
Well, the review would be preemptive to the raise, correct? Is that-
Yeah, yeah.
Yep.
I would say have it be sometime in December. Usually that's how it goes. You have at least through the end of the year to be able to have your whole scope of the work year included.
The only problem with as we get bigger, Wendy has a lot of stuff to do in December to close out the year.
I don't do the reviews, I have one person whose review I would have to do, and she's sitting right there. So everybody else can take care of their reviews. I just need to know when it comes time for the wages. You know, when you guys do the scheduling or the listing. So if they wanna do reviews, that's
That will bother you at all?
Thank you, I
Okay.
appreciate it.
I have one more question with the reviews. Do we have a something in place that is a standardized, meets expectations,
Yeah, we have a
exceeds,
form.
okay,
Yeah,
okay.
there's a form.
Can you get everybody a copy of that, a blank one, so that everybody can see it? I mean, I realize Adam gives it on his, but please, just if we can, everybody can have a blank one, would be helpful.
No, I don't.
Okay, besides the yearly review in December, does anybody else have anything to add?
Is there a time that would be best for you with budget and everything to make sure that it's, well, shit, what is it?
So for the budget purposes, if you guys are wanting to do the wage increase on this schedule, this will have to be approved before the first paycheck in May. Because that's when I would do the increases for anybody who was granted an increase.
You said it's
You said
May,
May.
right?
May.
May, yeah,
I would
okay.
actually need to have, this would have to be approved.
That's enough time, yeah. Okay, so that's enough time then, December, or even January. I mean, even, yeah, I mean, January encompasses the whole year.
Well, they can be,
March would be fine.
they can be done and turned in by that time.
Yeah.
Right, so they can probably be done ahead of time and turned in by
I won't say even
February.
January, I mean, that's what we do.
End of January.
That's pretty standard in January, so you get the full scope of The
You
one
want
a
it- you
year,
want it
yeah.
January?
Yeah, I would say January.
End of January, January 31st, probably.
Yeah, end of January.
Okay. Alright, we'll get that added, get you a red line copy and get it to you. Okay. Establish ad hoc committees.
And again, as I hand it out to you, can I read these? So we have, do we have it? Is it okay? Okay. So the first motion I'd like to make is a motion of creation of a ad hoc legislation committee. The purpose for which to provide initial public review of any proposed legislation and make recommendations to the committee of the whole, or if necessary, to the land use committee. Initiate study and review of changes to previous ordinances or village code and makes recommendations to the committee of the whole, or if necessary, to the land use committee. Hears initial public feedback on proposed legislation and advises the committee of the whole. Reviews and studies water sewer rates and or rate structure and makes recommendations to the committee of the whole. And exceptions shall be made to legislation requiring action of legislative authority to be made within 30 days where local, state, or federal laws or otherwise indicate. And aside from what the purpose is, having more of an opportunity for dialogue with actually moving forward with good legislation, having council members who serve on this particular committee to have a better review of what type of legislation is new, or if we need to revisit any, but also, and I wrote this down numerous times where it came up, the words public engagement, community outreach, public input, and involvement, that these committees could ultimately, up to the committee, offer opportunities for our public to engage in those proceedings. So that's the motion.
Second. Discussion?
Discuss it first.
Doesn't he have to, at the top, he had to put who and everybody
You do.
were voting on that, so we can't just vote on doing it. You have to say you want to create it and who do you want on it, and then it's voted.
From the way it was described to me that it wasn't me who actually decides who. It was asked who would be volunteered. So if we want to do that, if there's anybody who wishes to serve on the legislative committee, it does require 3. I will volunteer my time and to serve on that committee if there's 2 others that wish to serve on that committee.
Any other discussion?
Yeah, it's your meeting.
I just want
Go ahead.
I just want to be polite. Okay, so I understand, I guess, your concept behind it, but what has always been, and I've talked to a few of you, is that's what our CAL meetings are for. I know the CAL meetings have not gone like they should have gone the last few years, but that is not administration's fault that you have council members that don't want to speak up. And I don't see that it's fair to give 3 people legislation and not give it all. I don't even know if I could do that.
Yeah, I'd have a problem with it legally, Dustin. You got 3 council members working on any given legislation. I mean, everyone has a chance to provide legislation at every meeting. And putting 3 together is going to present a problem, I think, with certain forms of legislation that you would pass, could pass, could be questioned.
Could you give an example of that, please? What
Sure.
would
And if
be
the
the,
committee members aren't voting on the legislation per se.
I understand, but they're reviewing it, they're finalizing it, and they're coming to council with 3 votes on something. And I could see it being challenged. An ad hoc committee typically isn't for reviewing all new legislation. That's the purpose of the CAL meeting, is to review or to discuss with council members what, if any, new legislation you want. Most of the legislation that you all vote on is zoning related, land use related, new build related. To put together a ad hoc committee on all legislation would basically could lock in 3 votes on certain items that I think the whole council needs the ability to deliberate upon. And with 3 members, you're dangerously close to a quorum should one person drop off council. you would have a quorum, and you wouldn't be able to have the meeting.
And that could be something that could be handled through agenda items and review during that time. And if there is a quorum, then you would not be able to have that. Is that correct?
Yeah, you wouldn't be able to. Three could not meet, and you have the public records concerns, you have the public input concerns, and that's what the council meetings. You're under a system where you have 3 readings. Your first reading is name only. Your second reading, you're getting public comment, and your third reading, you're also getting public comment. So you already have a system for that legislation.
Bill, wouldn't it also be a little strange to have 3 members of council have the legislation, open it to the public at their public meeting without the other 3 council members even knowing that that legislation exists?
But they would all be, they would all be divided. I mean, they could all come in, anybody could come in.
Yeah, no, they can't. They can't all come in because then you've got a committee that has a quorum.
Then why was there committees in the past where other members came and sat in and it was 4?
I don't know of any instance where that occurred.
But land use committee,
Yeah,
our meetings,
Thank
a
you,
couple people
Eric.
came, just, I mean, Nancy came once, they
I
just
came
sat
once.
as community members, because
Yeah.
they're allowed to come as community
Yeah.
members, but we weren't dealing with any type of legislation, resolution, or anything, it was just to advise whether we wanted to move in that way.
Right.
Which is
I
the
mean,
same
I
thing.
I
as
think
me.
the argument about the quorum could be made of any committee if additional members show up and you would potentially have a quorum and a conflict for that reasoning, so.
I mean, with the land use committee, it would be the same type of thing. If you have the land use committee and someone comes and sits in, then it's considered a quorum, then you couldn't have, then they couldn't have had that meeting that Nancy was at, even if she was in capacity as a community member.
Yeah,
Well,
we did
because
one
she,
there.
the way that when.
You only had 2 members though, right?
No, we had 3.
Yeah,
you
you have to
By
have
rule.
3.
But sometimes
And when
there
we
were set up
asked-
2.
Yeah, when we asked you that at the time, you said as long as they're not treated any different than any other community member, and they don't because we had it back there, they don't sit at the table.
They're not
You know.
voting, they're
Right,
not,
right. Well, we
they're not
wouldn't be
deciding,
voting.
they're not deliberating.
Right.
Here, you're deliberating on legislation.
Right.
You're just,
And that's an issue that, as I understand your current council rules, the Ohio Revised Code, you deliberate on all legislative actions in public with a full body or with council members excused.
But is it really in public if we're having our CAL meetings in a separate room where community members aren't really given the fundamental access to provide input at that time?
They're
that
provided-
They're supposed to be discussing
Yeah,
legislation.
they are provided access
To
No
view,
discussion in CAL
viewing
meetings.
access.
through the TV.
Ezekiel, if I can, that is up to the council president where it's held.
Okay.
And if that needs change, it can be changed. That's the president and council's meeting. If they want it out here, if they want it in the parking lot, if they want it wherever, then that's
true.
where that can be done.
but if we move it, even if we did move it, does that open for public discussion? Because that's the thought I want to say more behind this, if I'm correct,
It
is to
kind of
get
run- it kind of
more
runs
of the
parallel to-
public involved in what's going on. I think that's the one thing we all echoed and heard all through running is we want to be able to have our voice heard. And I understand they can stand here and talk at us for 5 minutes with no one being able to speak back at them until the end. And if they stay, I mean, how many people spoke that leave?
That's something I brought up to you.
It is.
Change the agenda.
Everyone has to agree to add 30 minutes to every meeting then, because if everyone wants to speak for 5 minutes, that's 30 more minutes.
I mean, you guys can do what you want, but he is our attorney, and we need to follow his advice. We have another attorney down here also saying yes. So, we need to
Kid.
check the legalities, because we
Kid.
don't wanna get the village into something.
Totally understand.
And that is
Uh,
what the purpose of a CAL meeting is.
And so
if it's public input, Dustin, I think that you're publishing your agenda, you're publishing the legislation, and if you want to change the council rules to say anyone can speak at the second reading or at the third reading, from the public for your input before we pass the legislation, you can do that. Because if it's public input you want, then it needs to be in an open meeting with all the council people here before the council people vote on the legislation. But having 3 members meet with the public on legislation that you're going to bring to council, I think just presents you with so many problems and so many potential Open Meetings Act problems and public records requests and just a whole series of issues. I'm not an elected official, I'm just telling you, I think you're facing a lot of problems having a committee such as this.
Would
you be able to revise the language around this in such a way to suit it, to fit some of your concerns around the legality of it?
Well, I think that anytime you want to discuss legislation in Ohio with the public, it needs to be at a public meeting with all council members present. And you currently have 2 meetings a month, and I think you can address this problem by having a public section in your COW agenda to say, all right, normally we're going to do our business back there, we're going to talk, and we're going to figure out what we're going to do next meeting. But for 30 minutes of the COW, we're going to come out here and discuss any pending legislation and get public input on it. Because you have to give the public notice on what the proposed legislation is. You have to do those 3 readings. And if you think you need public input on a specific piece of legislation after the first reading in title only, then maybe at the next COW meeting you have that open dialogue with the public and change your council rules to address. What I'm hearing is, I've got a problem, I'm not getting enough public input. So change your council rules to have that public input at a COW meeting and change your agenda.
Could we have 2 council meetings a month?
Well, that's what you
We
just
just-
voted on.
That's what we just voted on,
We're gonna
Jeff.
have a council meeting right after the
Take a
cow.
look at it.
Yeah,
So
no, I
one
mean-
thing that needed talked about in the cow could then be moved to the meeting out here.
Yeah, and I'm saying just change the COW agenda for public input on or before the second reading of any piece of legislation. If public input is the issue, and you don't feel that they have enough time in a regular meeting where you have a 5-minute limit, then you can do that by changing your COW agenda.
I mean, I will, just from experience, my big concern is if we lengthen the cow by letting everybody speak. We've had cow meetings go till 8:30 or 9. And it was just voted on, now we're gonna have to come out of there. We can only have an hour, because now we've got a council meeting at 7. So our open discussion is gonna be, it's gonna take away our input, to make the decisions and listen to the public, or to give them more time. It's actually gonna hinder us, because we may have to leave out there and come right out here and address it. And it's 2 totally different mindsets. I mean, Dustin, you've been in there, you know it. When you come here, it's one, when you go back there, it's different.
And it wasn't, the thought behind this was not the intention though, so Bill, I do take that into consideration. But you're right, the mindsets are different, and not trying to detract from the current process, but to add another layer of that discussion.
Yeah, I mean,
And
honestly,
if there are some legal ramifications for that, totally understandable, so, we can table that for further discussion.
Yeah, I think we need
To
to talk it
determine
through.
what can and cannot be done, because of course we do not want to run into legal issues for the
Yeah.
village or anybody associated on this council. So, but if there are other workarounds that we can to meet the same ends, then I think we can.
Can we have a spot in our regular council meeting? Like I discussed with Courtney about having a spot there and having the dialogue there instead of a cow meeting?
Yeah, you can always amend your council rules, which have your agendas in them, to say that on any piece of legislation at the second reading, we will give 10 minutes to anyone who wants to speak on it.
now, can we, I know.
If the intent is to get public input, you just change your agenda to allow for public input on legislation.
Can we limit that? I know normally somebody signs up, they can sit up for 5 minutes, talk about the sky being blue. In that particular thing, can the rules say you must speak on the legislation at hand?
Yeah, your agenda will say, 5 minutes
just
per
wanna make sure,
speaker.
Because that would have been the intention
On
of
the
the
agenda.
committee, to only speak on that specific
Right.
topic that's on the
Sure.
agenda, so exactly.
So maybe
Sure.
we do something like that, I'll, add that to it, talk to Bill
We can
about
talk, we
how
can,
we
we
need
can
to do
talk
it.
at the cow.
Dustin, what about using this committee to look over all the stuff that's antiquated?
And that was kind of part B, you're thank you.
Start it that way.
Thank you.
That's-
So that the people get used to looking, reading legislation, understanding
Absolutely.
legislation.
Yeah.
Because I'm gonna be honest with you, having the ORC be your Bible, it sucks. I mean, you're on the side of the road and you're trying to figure out black and white on something,
Sure.
you know, but you may
Yeah.
have to go all the way back to a definition to see what this is.
And I think that's a good point, Eric.
Yeah,
I think
I mean-
asking, see if that's something that in addressing previous legislation or anything like that, and see if that's something that we
And
would.
then if Bill gets to the point that he thinks, okay, I think this is cool, then you just add that as another task, but it's already there, and we've all agreed at one time or another that, man, our book needs addressed
Correct.
now.
Thank you. Yes.
Yeah, and if,
That's correct.
if another one of the intentions is to look at updating the code, there are companies that update codes for villages, townships, counties, cities. Most of them rely largely on AI, and go in and look at inconsistencies in your code. You know, as they come up with chief and myself in mayor's court, as they come up with zoning questions, that's when changes are made. But a holistic look at that code, which is that thick, will take a long time. And I think it's important for council members to look at what they want to change, you know, bring it up in the cow, talk amongst yourselves so that you all have input, as opposed to just 3 members for various and sundry concerns. But I think we can talk more about this in a cow meeting, once I get a chance to kind of digest this.
Okay. Thank you for that. So I'll table the motion until further discussion. The second motion I have is it says creation, but the continuance of the land use committee for the purpose to provide initial public review of zoning issues, changes, or updates, and make recommendations to committee of a whole. Lead initial discussion on submitted zoning variances, publicly hears initial proposals for development opportunities, and advises the committee of the whole. Leads the development of the village comprehensive plan, leads the effort for the potential implementation of village zoning and planning commission, and advises the committee of the whole. Not necessarily legislation to that bill, but if you read into that there is a legislative concern or issue with that.
No, this
that
is
can be
just,
duly noted.
this is just a continuation of a existing ad hoc committee.
That's correct, that we have, and with some additional items there, so. And again, I would volunteer my time to serve on that. If we have any other discussions with that, then
Who's already on it? So do you get new members or the members that are already on
Members
it?
are
Jay and Eric.
nominated and voted upon on a
Start
yearly
over every
basis.
year.
So we got a motion by Dustin.
I would second it.
Well, we have to add the committee members.
Yeah, well, it's the motion to continue the
Yeah.
committee, and then we're gonna add 3 committee members. We got Dustin,
can I ask Eric if he would be so kind to continue?
I'm gonna respectfully decline.
Okay.
I would volunteer.
So we have
Okay.
Dustin, Patricia, and Ezekiel.
okay.
Then I'm on, in. Can we do that?
No.
Too many?
Too many.
Yes.
Too many.
Sorry,
Well,
Jay.
I was ready.
Both
Jay,
of
they're
them.
all set down.
Jay, or one of them.
If you
Stay
wanna
on
do
it.
Yeah, I can step back.
It doesn't matter. As I said, if you both want, it's fine. I could do it. I don't have a problem doing it.
It's up
They
to
need
you.
some
You already have
leadership.
the-
You've been doing it, and we have some new ones, so
No,
I will.
actually, I don't think he's been to a meeting,
Oh.
because he left and came back.
So Eric got on, I quit.
I'll do it next year,
Okay.
Jay. All right.
Okay, so we got Ezekiel, Dustin, and Jay.
Yes.
We've got a motion to continue that committee.
I second.
Second,
All in favor?
Okay.
Aye.
Please make sure you let the office know when you're having your meetings so we can get it posted.
yeah.
And somebody will have to take minutes.
Yeah, then schedule, try and schedule those, for 6 months, a year in advance, so Paula doesn't have to make multiple trips to post them places, and we don't have to. And then, of course, you'll have to have somebody take minutes, and then you'll have to send them to the office.
We have a motion to continue
Do you
the
have a
Parks and
motion to
Recs
continue the Parks and Recs?
committee.
Honestly, I think the Parks and Rec was great, but the heart and soul of Parks and Rec is no longer able to serve. If the village is gonna be in the business of putting on, events, I really think it should probably just be all of us. And then however Nancy assigns the duties, then that's how it should be. I just don't, I don't see a committee helping. If we don't have the committee, then all 6 of us have a little piece of the pie that we have to deal with, and nobody should be really mad, because, they were part of it. But I would like to not.
You can have the village take over.
Yeah, that's what I was
the
just gonna
event.
say. Can't we put it in somewhere or vote to have
And
the
we're fine
village
with
take
that.
over you guys do it anyway.
Yeah.
That's what I,
So,
Yeah.
that's what I just said. If we don't have
Unless
a
someone wants to
committee,
come out there and push
then
that
the village
chalk
does
thing.
it.
Do we need to motion for
Yeah,
that,
do-
Bill?
yeah,
Is
what-
that-
Well, no,
No, because we just.
every
have to-
year you have
we're not
to,
continuing it.
So the
Either-
village will
Gotcha.
just handle it.
okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
with
Okay,
that, the point of order, just a caveat. If you do have a comprehensive plan, they may want a Parks and Recs committee as part of
Yeah.
the comprehensive plan, but you can always, per your council rules,
Put one in.
move for,
as needed.
yes.
okay. We're going to move on to legislation. The first reading. Resolution 01-2026, a resolution approving the major site plan application for Mark Jacob on behalf of IBI Rickenbacker G1 LLC as to Lot G, aka Lot 9, in the Rickenbacker Exchange Part 3 development. Title only. First reading for resolution number 02-2026, a resolution approving the major site plan application for Mario Reyes Rosales for the El Canon Retail Center and Restaurant.
Discussion?
Yeah.
Yes.
It's no secret that I was against this when it came in. Everything went through and looking at it, the changes that they made were simply they had to put the pond in the front due to elevation, which I believe Ross thought had to be done anyways. All of the things that were questioned by the community have not been changed. They didn't change this, simply just, they actually gave more of a buffer because now there's parking over by those houses as well as the mound and the 4-foot tree. Speaking to his engineer, developer, whatever he is, before, he did say that they have a concrete permit or whatever that is on a time frame. So if we push this out all the way, they could possibly miss that. Being that nothing changed, and I'd like to make a motion to waive and approve this because nothing has changed that the committee hasn't already spoke on, and they addressed it. This is just unfortunately, when they got into engineering, the elevation didn't work, the pond couldn't go where they thought, so they had to move it. Literally, they moved the pond and then shifted everything back, and the parking that was over here is now along the north side.
Well, they also
So-
moved the trash.
So they have additional parking right behind all the residences.
To give that extra.
Right, so you have all those residences who brought up that big concern initially, plus you have a dual trash receptacle right behind residences
They
there.
actually wanted the parking there.
Where previous, it was on the other side, on the pond side, so they aren't minor changes. Aesthetically, it looks, similar, but those are changes that will truthfully impact those residents
The
in
residents
Chestnut.
actually wanted the parking on that side, and at the time, it couldn't be done. They wanted that, so it gave them more buffer from the noise of the business.
Well, the trash up there does not give you a buffer on the noise. That's for
Yeah.
sure.
And I don't know, is that something that you have to put somewhere, or does the refuse company have something to say?
We can take a look at moving that.
We know it's needed, we understand that, but with the change and putting it right directly behind someone's home, where on the other side, you did have a retention pond where it was, and it wasn't within the proximity
It
of
was
homes.
before in that location.
I thought it was on the west side.
I have it right here.
Yeah,
Well,
the
it-
previous one was
Yeah.
approved.
It was along the pond where that Pettit's owns.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was on that southwest side.
Yeah, we can make that work.
Yeah, so this is the previous one, it was down here, and then on the new
Oh,
one,
okay.
it's back up here now, right
Okay.
against the property.
Yeah,
homes.
we did that because we had the parking on the back. So, I mean, we can do whatever you wanna do. If you wanna move it down. I don't wanna take up a parking space because we've got the parking we need and we haven't decreased or increased. It's stayed the same as it was before. We can work with that and maybe move it. But I don't wanna try to move it somewhere where we can still keep the number of parking spaces. Yeah, I can take a look at that. Like Eric said, we've got a time constraint here because we've gone in and have gotten a foundation permit.
Would you allow like landscaping or something? Would that maybe alleviate some people's concerns?
I don't know that it's necessarily a landscaping issue, I think it's a noise issue when you have those things at different, yeah.
Noise on the
Yeah,
tra-
they come whenever.
Yeah, and there's no real set time frame.
Yeah.
And that would put it right next to somebody's in-ground pool.
Yeah.
Now, we've got a double buffer there. We had the one buffer that is not changing. That's all along the north property. And that's a 4-foot mound, which is solid dirt, plus 2 feet of bush type of vegetation. And then we've also added vegetation around the dumpster too. So they get a double buffer there. I'm afraid if I move it someplace else, it's gonna take out some parking. And it's gonna be awkward for the truck to come in, because they can just come by, pick it up, and then go back out. But, I mean, there's one place.
Since he can't
And Eric,
definitely say, I'm gonna withdraw my motion to waive.
In your time frame, since we added an additional, it'll shrink the time frame that they have for the readings. So instead of 90 days that we'll have, or 3 readings over 3 months, you know,
'Cause
every 2 weeks, so.
Our foundation permits, what do we say, it was like 1st of April or?
Yeah, and at the latest, it would be the first week of
Right.
April, it might be the end of March from the time frame that you
Yeah,
filed.
so
You
it's
filed in
maybe-
October.
Go back, figure out what you can do, if there's suggestions, and then have it to us. Then we can discuss it at the next,
And then we have a council
we
meeting
have a
right
council
after that.
meeting.
Yeah, 2 weeks. I'm
Okay,
sorry,
so-
3 weeks, 26th, I believe, is that right?
Yes.
26th of this month?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
And then we'll have one the 1st of February.
Yeah,
Okay.
so the timeline is a lot quicker.
Nancy, I have a question. I don't know if it's for you or for Bill, but with our noise ordinance, like, you know, when they do come get the trash, since there are residents there, would there be a particular time that they should not come and remove the trash?
I don't think you can tell them that.
Our noise
Yeah.
ordinance doesn't
Yeah.
actually rules those things out.
Okay, just ask, yeah, thank you.
Okay. Okay, 26th.
Yeah.
Okay, next up, our first reading is Resolution 03-2026, a resolution to make permanent appropriations for current expenses and other expenditures of the Village of Commercial Point, Ohio during the fiscal year ending December 31st, 2026. If you don't have numbers yet, you will. We just wanted to get a first reading. Next up is ordinance number 2026-01, An ordinance waiving the residency requirement for the village administrator pursuant to the Ohio Revised Code Section 735-2.271. Title only. Ordinance 2025-12. An ordinance to rezone 21.92 plus or minus acres within the Village of Commercial Point, Ohio from R3 to Planned Residential District, PRD, and adopting the preliminary plan and development standards text for the planned district. I see Molly is here.
Alright, thank you.
We were asked to table this by the developer. Did you want to speak on why you want to table it?
We are fine to go forward with the first reading this evening. We would go ahead and withdraw the motion to table and be prepared to make a presentation at the second reading.
Okay. So they're withdrawing it, so we're doing.
We're not withdrawing the application.
No, you're withdrawing your
request to
table.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Ordinance number 2026-02, an ordinance approving the annexation of plus or minus acres of Scioto Township into the Village of Commercial Point and amending the zoning map.
We have discussion on this one.
Yes.
This, I don't know if everybody's aware or not, but this was an oversight, and it would be nice to have this in to make things smoother for the six of us and the mayor later. But if this doesn't get approved, they can still build. It would just be a township, which is gonna grow another entity, so then it would be a question of if ODOT needs something, the township needs to redo it. So this is just kind of it just has to happen, or not. But if we decline it, they're still gonna build. And to piggyback on the last one, with PRD, that is going to take away their ability to get mad and just put 35 of the junkiest homes ever, because as it's currently zoned, they could go find Bill Bob, the house builder, and put up whatever, as long as it meets code. So, redoing that to PRD does allow us to have a little more say in what was in there, because it's zoned R3, so they could, I'm guessing, but I think it's 35 houses in there.
Even with the proposed site plan of the townhomes, is what you're saying?
Yeah, if they would say, you know what, I'm done dealing with them on these townhomes, we're just gonna put 35 junk houses in there, because nobody wants condos.
Well-
What would they rather have, nice $300,000 or $400,000 condos, or a $200,000?
Well, I don't think it'll be a $200,000 house when they're wanting to put up $400,000 condos. So I think you would more.
They can.
They can if they want to lose money. Potentially, probably, I would say. I
support putting the sewers in.
I think, I don't. Look, they can do that either way, whether we approve this or not.
No, because we'd have to approve back to R3, and we'd never do that. That'd be silly.
Well, I'm saying the annexation part, not the R3, not the zoning.
oh,
The
that 1 acre,
annexation
1 acre.
part, yeah, the 1 acre. The zoning, though, they, like you said, if we either have to agree or not, if we do not change it to PRD and we leave it at R3, then they can just build the houses, correct?
As long as they meet the
Okay.
code. Our code is very
Oh, I know.
weak when
I
it
know.
comes to-
I'm aware.
So to me, that's a big plus.
Oh, I know.
Because it
I know.
tricks those.
Yeah, I know.
We can tell them what, if we want brick, if we want stucco, I mean, we literally control everything with PRD, but, Mayor, is that one something, is there anything with the other property that would make it to where we would need to move faster? Or Bruce, is there any reason why that one would have to be waived, or can it just ride out the free reading?
No, I'd also defer to Molly because she's been drafting a lot of that legislation. So, but I don't see any reason why it can go through the reading.
Okay.
For sure.
Okay.
We can wait till the second reading.
Well, you don't have to stand up.
Well,
I don't.
well-
I sit all the time.
So,
We don't have a rush on that one.
so the, the concern that I would have is we're having two different tracks of two different types of zoning bringing in, right? So you have the acre that we're doing a reading for, and when that comes in, will that
Exceptional use.
go? Oh, correct. So then now we have to go through the process again of changing that for whatever's decided upon if it's PRD. So then, in order for those to catch up, is that correct? Okay.
We can't do them all at once. We can't do it at once.
You can always.
Well, I mean, yeah.
They're two separate pieces of
Yeah, they're
legislation.
separate, and you can always.
One,
This is like their entrance. They forgot to put on there.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're all.
Yeah, that's already annexed.
It's
They,
literally-
it was like a
they
typo.
literally- yeah,
They
didn't
missed
realize
an annex.
That acre was a
Or they
separate
missed the acre.
piece. And
It's the
it was just-
entrance.
They found it and they're like, uh-oh. Billy didn't have very good attorneys back then.
Okay, we're gonna move on. Second reading, resolution number 35-2025, a resolution approving the major site plan application for Canal Properties, number 627 LLC on behalf of K-Nova. Discussion? All right, we have no pending administrative. Is there any additional business?
I did have one. We'll put an additional business only just because I wanted to confirm. This was the one that we had originally was 3 buildings. Now they've resubmitted for 2. Is that okay? Just want to make sure. I know we have some new folks that. Okay.
Okay, I have a motion to adjourn.
That's my answer.
Eric, second.
Second.
Courtney. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Alright, thank you.
I thought for sure that you
Page 4. Public access.